Okay. We are going to try to watch the last half hour of the impeachment proceedings. Becky is somewhat cooperative. But hey, we're going to have a little bit of fun.
So if there's any silver lining in this dark
and see what's going on here.
Friends from across the aisle have come to realize that riots are bad. We conservatives have known this all along.
So what's going on here is the Democratic Party is looking to impeach Donald Trump for a second time, and the charge against him is that he has emboldened and allowed protesters to turn into rioters when they came to the Capitol. That's the accusation against them. So we're going to see if they're able to sell that point today. It looks like they've got some support there. I don't think it's going to pass the Senate. I turn that down a bit. Stomachs go up. Becky is very, very frustrated with the Senate proceeding, or the congressional proceedings today. She wants to play with the microphone. She doesn't want to listen.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Quigley.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 30 seconds.
So as they're debating back and forth, one of the things I've noticed is that the arguments basically boil down to one thing. Did Donald Trump, is he the proximate cause for the attacks against the Capitol? The Democrats say yes, the Republicans either say no, or they say yes, but it doesn't matter anyway. That's really what this is boiling down to. Yeah, she is getting very big. She's already interested in cell phones, so 15 years ago this would have been weird, you know, having I mean, this is weird now, but having a phone and a bottle at the same time would have been unheard of 20 years ago. But let's see, we're going to see how this plays out here.
From North Carolina, a new member of the committee, Ms. Ross.
The gentlewoman from North Carolina.
Both sides have about 15 minutes of time left before they start voting. I expect that the vote is going to proceed, and they are going to vote to impeach Donald Trump and send it to the Senate. Well, let's see what they have to say.
The president has had multiple opportunities to modify his behavior to bring this country together. Instead, he uses his power to further divide us. He is unrepentant. Congress must act for the good of this country. Madam Speaker, I yield back my time.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Becky's going to run in about 2070.
The gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Good.
The gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. I stand today in
I think no matter what happens here, the market's still going up.
Impeachment proceeding with literally 1 week, 7 days remaining in his term. This is merely the culmination of a 4-year effort
she has
to
milk
overturn
on
the
her
will of the
forehead.
people and the results of the 2016 election. This is simply a political action intended to tarnish the legacy of a highly successful president.
Samuel, no, I sold my positions in GameStop and now I'm kicking myself.
Energy independence, reduction of taxes for millions, regulatory relief for businesses, renewed peace in the Middle East, and stronger border security. This action will only serve to further offend the 75 million people
I hope you guys
who
with
voted for President Trump and further deepen the division within our nation
Oh,
as we try to move
more
forward
mature,
with a
huh?
peaceful
Look at what she's
transition
doing
of
right.
power. However, the Democrat majority has determined he's already guilty, and there's no need of a trial, and they therefore move forward quickly with this phony impeachment charge. Today, I join my Republican colleagues in standing against this further effort to divide our nation. Thank you, and I yield back.
Yields back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
That's enough, thank you. Thank you for looking in. No, that's okay.
For 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of the impeachment. It's very simple.
What
we saw on January 6th was a person, the President of the United States, incite a crowd to come and attack the crowd, the Capitol. We have to make sure that we stand up for democracy. If we don't do this, then what are we going to stand for? We stand for democracy. We stand for American
What are you
values,
doing?
And I stand for the impeachment of Donald Trump.
Yeah, DraftKings is good play.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from
I am
Ohio
30
reserves.
years old. She's 1 year old, 13 months. Thank you. Thank you, Becky. That was very nice. Thank you for searching my mouth.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Pennsylvania, Ms. Scanlon.
The gentlewoman from Pennsylvania is recognized for 30 seconds.
On January 6th, President Trump launched an attack against the United States Capitol. I too urge my colleagues to unite, but to unite in love of country and to hold this president accountable.
Yeah, Kendrick, she's been sticking her hands in my mouth for the last 5 minutes. You're gonna make me turn down the volume here. You want this?
This president remains a serious threat to our
Yeah, she is a cute kid. She's our sweetie pie.
The gentleman whose time has expired. The gentleman
I'll let you
from
guys see
New
it.
York reserves the
She really
gentleman
doesn't
from
like
Ohio
politics. She's like really bored.
chooses to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
No, Francisco, I don't think they'll ever approve of an impeachment. That's what kind of makes this pointless. I think what this is really doing here... I think what this is really doing here is it's forcing the Republicans to now choose a side. Do they want to go down with the ship on the Trump side, or do they want to go with the more traditional conservative side? It's going to force Senate Republicans to make that decision. And people will remember this decision 2 years from now. Now, if they want to get reelected, they have to do a consensus among their constituents. Are they Trump supporters, or are they traditional Republicans? And that can make a big difference in how they vote. So it's not going to affect governance the way this progresses, but it is going to have an effect on the way future elections go, the way the Republican Party progresses. I think that's what this is really going to go. But let's hear what this guy has to say.
Gentleman's time's expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve.
Becky's really only interested in finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentleman from South Carolina.
Yeah, I think so too.
The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 1 minute.
Speaker, I rise today for 2 reasons. One, to voice my strong opposition for the impeachment of this president with 7 days left. I also want to voice my support for the strong police department. Many of you want to defund. Where was your prize to defund when you were leaving this office, this very room, on the 6th?
Canadian U.S. citizen checking in, all right.
I yield back.
Members are kindly reminded to
Hey, everybody please drop an F in chat for Canadians. You guys have some of the worst brokers that exist. Your fees are very high. You have no adequate brokers. You guys need Tasty Works as soon as possible.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to distinguished gentleman.
Unsatisfactory brokers in Canada.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 30 seconds.
Ironic. An administration begins by
Thank you guys for
building
paying
an
your respects to the Canadians. I appreciate
wall
that.
on our southern border. It ends by making necessary a new wall around this capital. I introduced articles of impeachment in July of 2017 with one co-sponsor, Al Green, and again in January of 2019. And on Monday night, I joined with so many of us in introducing these articles. I've introduced articles of impeachment in the 115th, 116th, and 117th Congress because Donald Trump has continuously posed a danger to this republic.
The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve.
You know who the real hero is this moderator lady. She's doing a great job getting everybody to shut up. It's pretty impressive.
The gentleman from Florida is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I use a couple of different brokers. I do have Robinhood just for the 3K challenge. I've got Webull for my for some fun trades, and then I've also got my main account is on Merrill Lynch.
Of those individuals who brought violence
And the reason I got Merrill Lynch is because I got banking benefits, and if I didn't, then I would have chosen.
Because of our president.
I would have chosen Tasty. Hold on, I gotta fix this thing here. I think the screen here is frozen. Alright, we're unfrozen. We're good.
It appears I will receive no answer. I will yield my time back.
Haken Beckin asks, what do I think of Peter Schiff? I don't know, he's got a good nickname. I don't know too much about him personally.
Wishes to reserve his time. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Merrill Lynch is good with the benefits, that is true.
I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Stanton.
The gentleman from Arizona is recognized for 30
Boeing
seconds.
is a cell zombie. They gotta get it in order.
To incite a violent insurrection against our own government.
You guys see what Becky's doing right now?
Against our own people.
She's having a great time playing with this drawer.
And our American values. We don't know yet if the president will face criminal charges
but we do know he must be
Hey,
held
Connor,
to
brokers
account.
with the higher
Each
fees,
one of us in this house
like Tasty, they've got commissions. They tend to be better because you get more liquidity and more adequate fills.
Even if that enemy is the president.
And you actually get a phone number that you can call if there's a problem.
From
So
these darkest days.
that's something you don't get with Robinhood. You get that with
accountability.
Webull, but I don't think it's that great. I don't know. I've never really used Webull's customer service, but I've had really good experience with Merrill Lynch's customer service.
Madam Chair, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now
Intel
yield
is a
30
buy,
seconds
I
to the
believe.
distinguished gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Stevens.
The gentlewoman from Michigan
Climate
is
speech
recognized
tomorrow
for
could
30
move
seconds.
some of the
Insurrection, a violent mob.
energy stocks and green
A
energy,
week
but I don't know
ago
too much about what he's actually going to
today,
talk about.
5 people were killed, many injured, and everyone in this building
This lady's
forced
passionate.
to hide for their very life. The president was called for help, but he did not answer our call.
Yeah,
Our
I agree with
government was
Darkness
being
Creeping.
taken
Webull does have pretty
over.
good customer service. I've never used it. I'd imagine it's
And therefore
probably right up there with Merrill Lynch, but Merrill Lynch has great customer service, so I can't
Some may
bash it.
say impeachment
I don't know if
is
anybody can come
political.
close.
Some may cry it is divisive. But
Becky is
Madam
enjoying this
Speaker,
mouse.
our obligation.
Donald, I really wish I knew anything about Hearn. I'm just not familiar with that one. Those of you guys that are asking about GameStop, I am personally very bitter about GameStop because I sold, but I do think that short squeeze, all this momentum, is going to continue carrying for now. That might change later.
Is recognized for 30
But
seconds.
no, don't buy $2,000 leaps for
The
Tesla.
impeachment of President Donald Trump. The gravity of the moment demands it, and the fate of our republic depends on it. He committed an impeachable offense by inciting a violent and deadly insurrection
No, Brooks, I sold for a
at the
game.
U.S. Capitol. For this, Congress
All right, let's come off of stocks for a
accountable
minute.
to preserve our
We're coming down to the last 10
democracy,
minutes
our
here for these
Constitution, and
discussions.
rule of law.
I don't know if
We
anything
should
real
set
is going to
aside
happen,
1 minute more
but
to
let's
be
listen in.
born
Let's see if
forever for
anybody's
public office.
bringing up
He is
any actual
toxic to
interesting
our
ideas.
republic and toxic to our democracy. I yield back.
Gentleman
Hey, Brooke, if
yields
you want
back.
this.
The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
So, thank you, Madam Speaker. So Democrats can say, quote, I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, while there are uprisings happening around the country. But they impeached the President of the United States for saying peacefully and patriotically, make your voices heard. Democrats can say, quote, you know, there needs to be unrest in the streets, while there is unrest in the streets. But they're going to impeach the president for saying peacefully and patriotically, make your voices heard. Let's be consistent, all of us. All of us need to be consistent and condemn the violence all the time. And with that, I yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from New Mexico.
The gentlewoman from New Mexico is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in opposition to these articles of impeachment. Political violence has no place in our constitutional republic, and those who assaulted police officers and forced their way into the Capitol are responsible for their criminal actions. Leaders in both parties have a responsibility to condemn such violence, whether in the halls of Congress or in the streets of America.
Hey, Stock Surfing has a great point there. I want everybody to read that, understand it, and digest it. Because too many times people have messed that up. Don't let your politics get in the way of your trading.
Those who sent us from each
They're two
state
separate
around
things
the
in your
nation.
life.
Right now, Madam Speaker, we've seen this
GameStop
body
calls up
impeach
37,000%.
once
Jesus.
before, trying to do it a second
All right,
time.
all right, all right, all right.
Two wrongs do not make a
Hey, Brooks,
right.
do you want this?
We have got to stand for the American people
want this?
because we will not get a second chance to get this right the first time. Madam Speaker, I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve.
We do. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds.
But I got the bombs. Thank you for the support, man. I appreciate
From New
it.
York, Mr. Torres.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 30 seconds.
Motion.
Madam Speaker, the dangerous mob that Donald Trump unleashed on the United States Capitol represents a violent assault on the separation of powers and on the peaceful transfer of power that we have long taken for granted. The impeachment of Donald Trump is not politics but law, not passion but reason, not vengeance but justice. And we as the people's representatives must rise to the challenge of defending democracy in the face of its gravest threat, and we will. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We reserve.
I think all of this is going to be good for stocks. No matter how this goes, this is going to be good for stocks. Whether he gets impeached and removed or not. Either way, good for stocks. Markets like fresh leadership. I mean, that's what it comes down to. After every election cycle, stocks have gone up.
Disbelief that after the president incited a violent mob to commit an act of insurrection,
Except maybe 2001. I think the dot-com boom was ending around that time.
And members of this body fled for their lives. But there are still members of his party who refuse to hold him accountable. It's because of that inaction that there is only one path forward to put an end to this presidency. Donald Trump must be impeached, removed from
Joseph,
office.
yes, I think stocks are going up here.
Of the presidency again. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back.
Big Ray, it's going to be 2056.
The gentleman from New York reserves his time.
I'll be 64.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We reserve.
The gentleman from
Hey,
Ohio
you want this?
reserves his time. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from New York, Ms. Velasquez.
The gentlewoman from New York is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, I rise in support of this resolution because in America we hold power to account.
Yeah, guys. Hey, GameStop is we don't know how long the squeeze is going to last. You know, or if this was even a squeeze. So
in America,
it's tough.
we do not
Stock Doctor, I made about 45% in my main account for 2020. Somebody actually asked me that a couple days ago. It was like 45.17 or something like that. So pretty good. I mean, it beat the market. It's not exactly. I mean, I could have just bought like one call on Tesla. Jose, I started investing in penny stocks when I was 18, and then I started investing in actual stocks when I was about 22, and then options at 23.
The gentleman has 10 minutes remaining. The gentleman for
Hey,
New York
don't
has
drop
9
stuff.
3/4 minutes.
It's expensive
The
electronics.
gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
I thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentleman from California, Mr. Malone.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute.
God, the $25 puts are trading for $500. The volitility is way too high on GameStop right now for me to be buying any options. This is like a sell option situation. Jesus, I mean, sell a strangle. Sell a $10 by $60 strangle.
This is all about, Madam Speaker, the unbridled hatred of this president. You use any extreme language and any process to oppose the core of what he has really fought for. You hate him because he is pro-life, strongest ever. You hate him for fighting for the freedom of our religion, to not be persecuted by unfair mandates
You want this?
and limitations on speech.
You want these shades?
You hate him for not subscribing to
Jakes, when is the last time I
religion,
cried?
climate change,
Jeez, I don't know.
one-sided Paris.
2019.
You hate him for Israel. You hate him for defending our borders. You hate him for letting families and small businesses keep what they earn, for trying to keep the agents of government off their back. You hate him for putting America first, which is what I thought we do when we swear the oath. No, this shabby show isn't about a threat to our republic. This is the impeachment and muting of at least half of the American people. This is shameful and abuse of a process.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New
Give
York.
the gentleman additional 20 seconds.
The gentleman from Ohio, you should have 20 seconds. 30.
I pray people of all stripes wake up to this spectacle, exercise their
Garcia asks, do I have
free speech and to fair
Do I have Twitter? Yeah, I got Twitter. Just look for Trading with Mikey, and you'll find me. And I got Twitch, and I'm starting the Kamikaze Cash Facebook too. You guys can find links for those in the description.
The gentleman from
And what do I think of leaps on Palantir? I'm selling not cash secrets. I'm selling poor man's covered calls on Palantir. So I've got $10 calls, and I'm selling the $25 covered calls
Thank you, Madam
for
Speaker.
high
I rise
premium.
to
I'm
support
probably
the
going to end up
impeachment of
rolling those
President
to a higher
Donald J.
strike.
Trump for seditious acts against America. To overturn the 2020 presidential election, Trump incited a violent assault on Congress, a treasonous betrayal of our nation. This criminal incitement left us with 5 dead, including a police officer, a desecrated Capitol, and a second constitutional crisis. His acts so show contempt for the rule of law.
Alex, I expect stocks to go up as long as nobody actually dies during this impeachment.
President Trump is a clear and present danger to American lives and democracy, and he leaves us no choice but to
welcome to the club,
remove
Lucas.
him from office. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio
Thank you, Madam
is
Speaker.
recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield
Becky almost
90
broke her
seconds
own
to the
monitor.
gentlelady from Tennessee, Ms. Rushmore.
The gentlewoman from Tennessee is yielded 90 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I urge my colleagues to vote against impeachment of our sitting President Donald J. Trump. You can tell the American people that this is a
Hey,
vote to
plus
impeach
Lee,
on
I've got
grounds
the
of
script is partly
inciting
written.
violence and
I'm working on dank
insurrection.
trades
But the
right now.
American
As
people
soon as
see
that
that
one's
standard.
done, then I'm gonna do the
They see a
PMCC
standard
video.
implied to those
After the
on
PMCC
election
video is done, I can get
violence,
into
and they see a standard to
the
those
3K
who
challenge
fight
again.
to the
It's
right.
really important to me that I do the PMCC video
The
first
American
before the
people
next
see
3K
this,
challenge
and
video
they understand it.
because I'm using PMCCs and I
I've
want
been
people
here
to know what I'm doing.
All I see instead of
But things like
lawmakers
this
who
make
are
it
truth
really,
seekers,
really
I
difficult
see lawmakers
for me to do
who are
work on a scripted video.
power seekers. And that's never good. Never good. What a
And,
shame. What a shame.
Okay, how about this? Do you want this? Big Ray, the answer to that question would be QQQ SPHD and Apple.
For such a time as this. God help us as a nation, and I pray that God will keep his hand on
Okay.
this nation
You want to play on the
as
floor?
ever seen. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields
play on
back.
the
The
floor?
gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve his time. The gentleman from New York is recognized. The gentleman from New York has 9 1/4 minutes. The gentleman from New York.
Sorry guys, I gotta turn the volume down just because of this.
The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, President Trump's incitement to violently overturn the result of a free and fair election is an attack on our rule of law. Any president, any member of Congress who obstructs the electoral
Sorry about the
college
ear
to
splitting,
attack
guys.
judges and the court system where there's no evidence to support their contentions undermines the public's trust and confidence in the judicial process. How do my Republican colleagues expect ordinary citizens to respect and trust the courts in civil and criminal matters all across this country? Think about that as you make this decision. Vote
The
yes
gentleman's
on
time
the
has
article of
expired. The
impeachment.
gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from California, Ms. Royal Illinois.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, I take no joy in voting to
Okay.
impeach President
And yeah,
Trump.
Becky does have a Becky
But this
portfolio.
president has blood on his hands in the wake of this attempt.
Hey, if you guys have kids, you want to get a 529 college savings plan as soon as possible, and invest heavily into that.
The president has sadly violated his oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. As members of Congress who have taken that same
And her
pledge,
top performer right now is Starbucks, of course. Starbucks has been on a tear. She bought it in the 70s. It's over 100 now.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Becky is trading. She's got. This is going to be a workout. She's got Amazon,
The
Tesla,
gentleman from California is recognized
Starbucks,
for 30 seconds.
TJ Maxx, Honda, and ACM. That's the Hyperloop company. They're partnering with all the companies that are making the Hyperloops. This is a workout, but at least she's happy. Yeah, leaps on Starbucks, guys.
Let's finally commit to investing trillions in creating good jobs in healthcare, in education.
Becky's got about 5,000 in her 529. What do you
The
want,
gentleman
baby?
yields back. The
What do
gentleman
you
from
want?
New York reserves. The gentleman from
You wanna sit
Ohio
here?
is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman
Hey,
from
hey.
Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Hey, Alex, we don't know if the Hyperloop's a pipe dream or not. But she's got 50 shares, just in case.
The gentlewoman, Ms. Sewell, is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam
Yeah,
Speaker,
Becky's,
I
she's
rise
got about
today
$100 of
for
covered
impeachment.
calls.
I do so
Bitcoin.
with a heavy heart
That's
and a
about it.
lasting and searing memory of being in this gallery, the People's House, right up there, fearing for my life. And why? Because the President of the United States incited others to be violent, a mob of insurgencies in this house.
She got me working out.
It's unacceptable. It led to the killing of 5 Americans. Blood is on this house. We must do something about it. I ask that we move from stopping the steal to healing. But healing requires accountability. And everyone must be accountable who isn't.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I would yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Moore.
The gentleman from Alabama is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I'm fairly new here. Actually, this is my first floor speech. But I rise to oppose this impeachment. You know, I asked my staff this morning.
Hey, a pro tip for everybody watching: whatever you want to achieve or do in life, do it before you have kids. Because as you can tell, kids are very time-consuming. They make it difficult to do stuff.
7 days left in his first term, and we're going to impeach a president for what reasons? For what reasons? There have been no hearings. There have been no committees. We must defend the right and protect the process of impeachment. If we pursue this, from now on, from this day forward, impeachment will always be a political process. I ask my friends across the aisle, they always talk about healing. Healing. How do we come together as a nation? Since 2016, there has been
30.
hashtags going around in our nation that said, not our president. Resist, resist.
Already beat the Calities.
Members across the aisle have said things in public to have supporters of this president attacked
I was
and demeaned.
29
Thank you,
when we
Madam
had
Speaker.
Becky.
The
I had
gentleman
just
from Ohio
turned
wishes to
29.
reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Outlook on Honda is bearish.
Mr. Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds.
I mean, they got to do some real adjusting. I don't think they're going to get the support that they
The
need from the
gentleman
Korean
from
government.
Illinois is recognized for 30 seconds.
But we have shares just because, for fun, basically. We like the cars.
Telling the story about the
Do whatever you
violent
want.
attack on our Capitol building, which is really like the temple of our
ICLN,
democracy.
what is that? Is that the Renewable Energy Index?
The oath of office, the same oath of
Yeah,
office
Adolfo.
the President of
Becky's
the
got,
United
she's
States
got a lot of
has
the Becky
taken,
stocks. It's
that
part of
all
the
of
joke.
us here have taken. And he has been the orchestrator of this attack. It is time to hold this president accountable. It is time, and history demands that we impeach.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We would reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Connecticut.
Yeah, the challenge. I'm waiting until I do the PMCC video first.
The gentleman from Connecticut is
Yeah, I know.
recognized.
You guys are waiting.
The words of
Oh,
Honorable
what's up,
Poland said,
Shallow
"Search
Esco?"
yourself, consider your oath. And I add 4 more words. Reflect on your legacy. My friends, which way is history flowing right now? Will Donald Trump join the pantheon of Washington, Lincoln, Roosevelt, and Reagan? Or will his 33% approval ratings and the condemnation of principled Republicans consign him to the heap of reviled demagogues with Joseph McCarthy and Andrew Johnson? Where he goes in history, you go in history. Unless today you make a stand. I yield back.
I would like to remind members to please direct their remarks to the chair. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker,
They should
I now
be
yield
voting
30
any minute
seconds to
now.
the distinguished gentleman from Hawaii, Mr. Carolan.
The gentleman from Hawaii is
Yeah.
recognized for 30 seconds.
Hey, Corsair. I don't know much about Corsair Brooks. Otherwise, I'd give you some advice. But I don't know. A lot of these like quick meme stocks that showed up out of nowhere. I'm just not aware of it.
And defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. On January
Yeah,
6th,
me
the
a
president violated
couple
this
100,000.
oath, inciting violent
But I've been doing this for a while,
insurrection.
so
Our
hey, thank you,
sacred
Juan.
oaths
Appreciate
are
it.
hollow without accountability. We must hold this president accountable, remove him from office.
Yeah, hey,
ensure he can
ICLN, the
never
renewable
hold
energy
public
stocks. Those are a
office
really
again.
good pick.
I urge my colleagues to
Those
do
are a
the
really
same.
good one.
This oath has to matter. Mahalo, and I yield back.
Recognized. The gentleman from
Yeah,
Ohio
socks is good. I got
reserves. The
SMH.
gentleman
It's
from New
similar.
York is
The
recognized.
semiconductor ETFs are awesome.
The gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Sarbanes.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, this beautiful Capitol dome is a symbol of freedom and democracy, not just for Americans, but for the people the world over. The action we take today, this impeachment, is a declaration that when there is an attack on our democracy, whether it comes from without or whether, tragically, in this instance, it comes from within, we will respond to that threat and attack, and we will do what's necessary to strengthen our
babysitting and
democracy.
trying to work at the same time is impossible.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 2.5 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from New York, Mr. Zeldin.
The gentleman from New York is recognized for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Sorry about your ears, guys.
I'm sickened.
I wish I could lower the volume on this baby.
But what we all had to witness last Wednesday and call for the
Jose, the most I've made in a single day, I don't know, maybe like 30,000, probably. That's not very common, though. I mean, 5% of my account is 25,000, so maybe like 6% in a day.
Desperately need to better understand the two standards that are at play in this House.
Yeah, Nick, I say just stay long. I don't see any impetus coming out of this impeachment that's going to change anything. So I'm thinking stay long stocks overall. Maybe be more selective about where you actually put your money.
Be rewarded with a gavel and a chairmanship.
And yeah, Dr. Zitzler, I like Norwegian Cruise Line still.
Administration official, but they will be punished if they're a Republican.
Avoid oil right now.
The double
Avoid gold.
That we have seen time and time again.
You know, the ones that are really performing right now are tech and recovering, like recovering fallen angels.
Why is it that a committee chairman
Adolfo, I started with like I graduated college with about 3,000.
The president colluded with the Russians in order to win the 2016 election. But of
And
course,
Alex, I like the specs: iPod, IPOE, IPOF, anything by that CEO, what's his name, Chamath, something with a P. He's a real rock star. All the Hero Sophia social capital SPACs are awesome.
So I'll complete the record.
Yeah, Adolfo, you're starting with about the same thing I would. The most important thing right now is make deposits.
That the president gave a speech and he told his supporters to come here and that he incited this riot. And one speaker after another here on the other side of the aisle have repeated
I don't know about
that in the article of impeachment. But we all know
Yeah, Chamath.
that this
Chamath
was
is
a
the guy.
pre-planned attack. We all know
Invest with that guy for
that there
sure.
were pipe bombs being discovered while the president was speaking. We all know that the Capitol perimeter was being breached.
I'm glad you guys like Becky. She's probably the most exciting thing about this stream right now.
That this was pre-planned, and it started
Because these guys are talking in circles. I was expecting them to start voting now. They should be running out of time for speaking any minute. TXT, most of the time, buy and hold is better. But there's opportunities to wheel in there, especially if you're talking about a high volatility stock. Wheel and then reinvest the premiums into shares, and you'll usually do really well. Unless you're talking about the indices, in that case, just buy and hold. And there's no reason to wheel SPY or triple Q, just buy
Yields an
those.
additional 30 seconds. Did I hear correct?
Yes.
The gentleman has another 30 seconds.
Thank you to the president for his efforts to move the embassy in Israel
Hey,
to Jerusalem and
if there's a
recognize
crash,
the sovereignty of the Golan
put it
Heights,
into T
and to
triple
take
Q
out Abu Bakr
after we
al-Baghdadi and Qasem
come down a little bit.
to eliminate the ISIS caliphate, to enter into the historic Abraham Accords, to have an economy this time last year that was stronger than I ever remember in my entire lifetime. Yet we'll complete the record. And in all fairness, as the president leaves 1 week from today, let's be honest about the double standards that exist inside of this chamber. And let's also be honest that this president did a lot to make
The
America
gentleman's
great
time
again.
has expired. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve.
Do. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I now yield.
I think they're supposed to start voting at 3. That's a half hour ago.
I now yield 30 seconds to
You gotta
the
be close
distinguished
on
gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Caston.
What happens
The
if
gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
What happens if we get this wrong is written in Lincoln's second inaugural, when one party would make war rather than let the nation survive. On December 7th, on September 11th, we came together against an enemy from without, but on January 6th, we were attacked by an enemy from within, the president who would make war with malice for all and charity for none. We must come together in unity today against that domestic threat to our Constitution. The alternative is too unbearable
bringing
to
up the good point.
contemplate. We must impeach, bipartisanly, unanimously, if you have the soul.
Hey, Neo Ray, yes, LRCX all day, man. I'm still long and strong LRCX. I just bought a little bit more.
The gentleman from Ohio
I sold a put.
reserves. The
I'm
gentleman
going to
from
stay
New York.
bullish on LRCX for a long time.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Fletcher.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Yeah, stay on that for sure.
50 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I rise today in support of the article.
I don't think we're going to find a bad time for
opposition
LRCX over the next 12
gaslighting
months. I mean,
has
any dip below
masqueraded
500
as
is a
debate
strong
in the
buy.
chamber today.
I'm going to continue selling puts and then adding, rolling the premium into shares for sure.
And unleash a mob to attack the United States Capitol and the United States Congress, the elected representatives of the people. By doing so, he incited an insurrection against our representative democracy itself. If that is not an impeachable offense, then what is? Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is
Hey.
recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
Gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is
I
recognized.
now yield 30 seconds, distinguished gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Claves.
The gentlewoman from Michigan is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In Michigan's 13th, we proudly speak truth to power, even in the face of a racist and cheat. Those who incited an attack on the People's House do not get to talk about healing and unity. They have torn this country apart. They have stoked the fire and then handed the gasoline to Donald Trump. Dr. King once said, "True peace is not merely the absence of tension. It is in the presence of justice." Today we must embody those words. And we must understand that peace must be centered in truth and action. We cannot sit, Madam Chair, sit idly by after a violent attempted coup and allow lies and hate to continue. Today we stand up for our constituents who continue to be harmed by this wishes to reserve. The gentlewoman today
Time has expired.
Donald Trump.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. And the gentleman from New York has 3 3/4
Sorry about the
minutes
screaming, guys. Gosh, so freaking loud.
And the gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from North Dakota, Mr. Armstrong.
The gentleman from North Dakota is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What happened last Wednesday is an absolute tragedy. And not only are we part of dealing with it now, we were part of it then. But when emotions are frayed and tensions are this high, process matters more. It matters more now than it did before. And the reality is this. There are serious constitutional questions about these articles. And Donald Trump is going to be president until January 20th. And on January 20th, Joe Biden's going to become president. But I'll end with this. I'm going to vote against impeachment. And that's going to give me credibility.
Do I have
at
a
home
board
with
with my
base.
mic?
You're going to vote for
not
impeachment.
familiar
And
with
that's
that.
going to give you credibility at home with your base. It's easy to
We'll
point
talk about
at
the
me
Capitol
and
riot in a
blame
minute.
you.
Once they start
It's
voting,
easy
we can
for
talk
me to
about that if
point
you
at
want
you
to.
and blame you. But on January 21st, we're all going to be back here. So use that credibility. Go back and talk some hard truths to your people. I'm going to do it. And we need to do a better job. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. Excuse me, the gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentlelady from North Carolina, Ms. Manning.
The gentlewoman from North Carolina is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, this president has repeatedly lied to the American people about his election loss. He incited his followers to attack our democracy, resulting in 5 deaths. His dangerous efforts to derail the peaceful transition of power were a violation of his oath of office. This president is unfit to lead our nation and unable to discharge his duties of office. I call upon my Republican colleagues to speak the truth to their supporters and join me in holding President Trump accountable by voting to impeach. I yield.
New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Mervan.
The gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, since the events on January 6th, I spoke with a group of ministers from Gary, Indiana, and they told me how they are praying for unity and justice in our nation. It reminded me of the moment when
I do have a couple of ways that I can
on January 6th
adjust the
together in
sound.
a secure room after the attack. The House chaplain
Is that better?
Kivlin led us all in prayer. Let us remember that moment. Let us rekindle that prayer.
Maybe that sounds a little bit
for
better.
those 3 minutes when we were all united to preserve our democracy and justice. I support the article of impeachment so that we can move forward to do the work that our constituents set us here to do. With that, I yield back.
This expires.
Oh, video feed froze. Oh, no.
The gentleman from New York has...
Jesus Christ.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserved. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, there are more troops right now in Washington, D.C. than in Afghanistan. And there are heroes who defend us against the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, and his mob. I would ask my colleagues to look at the faces of those young men.
Alright, I'm gonna go get this baby a couple of crackers. Sorry for all those that are using headphones. I'm gonna go get this baby some crackers. She's acting nuts.
Republicans have, and take a tough vote for the future of democracy, for the future of our
The
country.
gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Beasley.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, let's be clear about one thing. If we were on the eve of a Republican president being sworn in, and his Democratic predecessor had said the same thing that this president said, and incited his followers, his mob, to descend up on the Capitol, we will be joining them, not making comparisons, because guess what? I don't care about no base. I care about this democracy and this country. And what happened the other day should never happen again. And we need to stand up and say and do the right thing.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, the Republican whip is prepared to close for us whenever that is appropriate, so we'll reserve until that's time.
The gentleman reserves.
Madam Speaker,
The gentleman from New York.
I now yield 30 seconds to the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee.
The gentlewoman from Texas is recognized for 30 seconds.
I was on that floor just 1 week ago, and so today the insurrectionist-in-chief will be impeached for insurrection. It is because he failed to defend this nation against all enemies, domestic and foreign, and he stood down near the White House and told a mob of domestic terrorists to go and show your strength. Be strong. You can't gain anything because of weakness. We must hold him accountable. We can heal this nation, but he must be impeached today. We must impeach Donald J. Trump as an insurrectionist.
The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio.
How's the sound, guys? I changed the input. Does it
The
sound
gentleman
okay?
from Ohio continues to reserve. The gentleman from New York.
Is the other side prepared to close?
Yes.
Then
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Yes.
I yield
The
3
gentleman
minutes.
from Ohio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 3 minutes to the Republican whip, the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank the gentleman from Ohio for yielding. Madam Speaker,
I want to check when
our
these
nation
guys are
still
actually
mourns
voting.
the unacceptable violence and anarchy that took place in this Capitol last week. As we speak, arrests are still being made, and the anarchists who stormed our Capitol are being brought to justice, as should be the case. Emotions are still high, but in this moment, we need to be focused on toning down the rhetoric and helping heal this nation as we move towards a peaceful transition of power to
Homeboy's
President-elect
backpedaled
Joe
a little
Biden
bit.
next week. My prayers, Madam Speaker, are still
No,
Capitol
I'm not
police
connecting
officers
with
seeking
homeboy here.
and leaving good,
Steve
who we
Scalise.
lost, as well as
How many kids do I
all
want in the
of
long
Capitol
term?
police
One.
officers
I want
who
one.
risk their lives to
My wife wants a few
us
more than that, though.
safe. They are true heroes, and they deserve all of our applause today.
All right, we voting? We're doing it? All right, let's do this thing.
Madam Speaker, I've seen the dark evil of political violence firsthand, and it needs to stop.
No, that's it. We're not voting yet?
All of us need to be unequivocal
Right. You want more food?
in calling
Okay,
it out
here you go.
every single
Here's some
time
more
we
yogurt.
see it. Not just when it comes from the other side of the aisle. I oppose
Yeah,
this
she's
rush
happy
to
because she's getting all these
impeachment
snacks.
brought forward without a single hearing. And by the way, the Senate will not even take this up until President Trump is out of office. So let's keep that in mind. It will only serve to further divide a nation that is calling out for healing. Madam Speaker, many speakers today have invoked one of our nation's greatest leaders, President Abraham Lincoln.
It's a pro tip right
Maybe
there,
we should
world gaming
follow
videos.
some of Lincoln's wisdom that he's imparted upon us in moments like this. As Abraham Lincoln was giving his second inaugural address in March of 1865, Lincoln issued us a challenge. This is what he said: "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all our nations." Madam Speaker, in times like these, let us not reach out to our darkest demons, but instead, like Lincoln, seek the higher ground. May God bless.
And most important thing that we're going to get out of this is
The gentleman
that
from New York is recognized.
we avoid further chaos. It's all we need for stocks to go up. I mean, we're in actually a relatively good place in terms of the economy right now. We've got a high likelihood of additional stimulus now. We've got vaccines being pushed out. And we have an opportunity here to be on the up and up. Our risk right now is that coronavirus doesn't get solved as quickly as we're expecting it to. But by and large, I think all we need is for no additional chaos to break out. And no coronavirus to somehow morph and become immune to the vaccine.
The violence
Or avoidant of the vaccine or something like that.
And the assault on democracy itself.
Hey, congratulations, Michael. I appreciate that.
It was right to do that.
Yeah, Neo-Ray, you can, SMH is the ETF. It captures a lot of LAM research. If you really can't afford LAM research, then you can do SMH. You're not going to get quite as much exposure to that particular stock, of course, but you get a wide variety of exposure with SMH.
She said the President of the United States summoned the mob.
A secret tryhard, I respect your point of view, but I don't agree. I don't see really any impetus to push the market lower. I mean, everything is just, it's positive right now. I don't see really any reason why we would drop.
She said, a greater betrayal by a President of the United States of this office, of his office, and his oath to the Constitution. That is why we are here today. That is why we are here today, just a week before that president, at the request of the American people, will leave office. And the issue is, what do we do? The 433 of us, I believe, who are here, do on behalf of the American people to respond to what Representative Cheney described happened on the 6th of January. A mob assembled by, summoned by, and then spoken to light the flame of the attack.
A secret try hard. Keep in mind that corporate tax is very different from individual
To stop the
tax.
steal.
Unless you're talking about S-corps. And even then, I'm not really convinced that raising taxes will force people to lay off employees on S-corps. I mean, that just doesn't really... It doesn't carry, because then you're hurting your own business and losing revenue in order to save 28% tax. So you're losing 100% of the relevant revenue in order to save 28% of the relevant revenue, which is only an increase of like 3%. I think it's 25 right now.
Sent by the president
I don't know. I'm not seeing a whole lot of reason for stocks to go down, but
did so
you know, we have been flying for a long time, so I think it's potentially only a matter of time before we get some kind of pullback, regardless of what happens economically. But right now, I see the momentum carrying.
So we ask ourselves, what do we do? What is our responsibility? What should
Lowering
we
wages
say?
to save money. All right.
In light of
But saving you
only
$3
the
an hour
Civil War,
over 100 people, even over 100
as an
people.
analogy.
If you have
Doesn't
100
mean
people
there
in your
haven't been
business, then
demonstrations in Washington before and demonstrations throughout this country.
but you're talking about small businesses. All right, so 10 people,
But it is
3
the first
people. You know, you're not going to have a huge
only
impact. And if you
physical
lose one
presence
employee, that's a much
other
bigger
than
difference than
the
having to pay a
9/11
little additional tax. I think you know what we really should be doing if we want to help small businesses? Let's get rid of the requirement that they provide health care. If we get rid of that by providing universal health care, we will relieve small businesses of the burden to provide health care to their employees. They are now free to hire because they don't have to worry about this massive barrier to additional employment. You know, hire more people. Oh, you can't because you got to provide health care for everybody? I could see that being a major barrier. So let's do the right thing economically and relieve employers of this burden. Let's have a universal health care system. I'll gladly pay a small additional tax if it keeps the population healthier, and now you are free as an employer to hire more people because you don't have to worry about providing health care for everyone.
To the Constitution.
That's not the typical reason why people are for universal health care.
Congress who for 4
Simply
years
try hard. We're going to pay for universal health care by raising taxes. That's how. I mean, right now, how much money do we pay for? How much do you pay right now in healthcare premium? Mine is $50 a month because I have VA healthcare. But right now, you got middle class people paying. I'm trying to talk about healthcare. Do not interrupt this conversation for food. You've got people paying $900 a month for healthcare premium. They haven't even seen a doctor yet. And then when they go to a doctor, now they got to pay a copay. And then they got to hit their minimum, what is it? They've got to hit their deductible before insurance does anything. So you've got people paying a lot of money in healthcare premiums, and they still can't see a doctor, versus you could be taxing them half of that premium, and they could actually see a doctor. And they could see a doctor earlier, before they end up having their arm turn black from infection. They could go see a doctor earlier because they don't have to worry about additional expense at point of sale. You know, economically, I think universal health care is the thing to do. And if it means raising taxes, raise my taxes, and get rid of my health care premium.
Rationalized by those who sought to profit financially and politically from their proximity to power. Upon the foundations of virtue, reason, and patient wisdom laid down by George Washington as our first president, Donald Trump has constructed a glass palace of lies, fear-mongering, and sedition. Last Wednesday on January 6th, the nation and the world watched it shatter to pieces.
No, GKK, that's not atypical to see people paying healthcare premiums like that. You know, your family's paying $500. All right, so it's, you know, $900 might be an expensive plan, but even $500 I feel like is a lot. Don't pay $500 in healthcare premiums. Pay $200 in tax.
Washington's legacy was passed down to us not as written decrees. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
You know, personally, I haven't seen a whole lot of decrease in healthcare quality based on how much it costs at the point of sale. You know. I mean, in Europe, they've got healthcare.
Washington's legacy was passed down to us not as written decrees,
And as far as my thoughts on the Capitol riot, amen. You know that you can't go into the Capitol building and search for people to hang. You can't build a noose outside the Capitol, beat a cop to death with an American flag, which is pretty ironic, and then break it. You know that you can't do that. So I've got absolutely no problem. Absolutely no problem seeing those people arrested.
Madam Speaker,
as far as is it Trump's fault? That's a tough one, man. That really is a tough one.
On both sides of the aisle.
I don't know. I hold them to a very high standard. I don't know if impeachment is what should happen here, but I got no problem with him taking some flack.
And from time to time, it must be refreshed. Madam Speaker, as the framers emerged from the Constitution Convention, Benjamin Franklin was asked whether they had made America a monarchy or a republic. Probably all of us know this response. A republic. He answered, if you can keep it. That's the question today. If we can keep it. And the way we keep it is to say no to actions and words that do not promote the keeping of that republic. For millennia, people have understood that a republic is only as stable and lasting as the citizens and leaders who commit themselves to its upkeep. This president has shown us he's not committed to that project. His tweets.
No, Big Red, I don't use Jimmy's website. It's just one more thing for me to fill out.
He is not
I did use it at one point. I mean, it's kind of cool.
Indeed, he openly disdains it and appears to prefer the alternative. But what of the rest of us? Those who have the honor and the great privilege and the weighty responsibility to
they were supposed to have voted by now.
750,000
I was planning on giving Becky her nap. The market's closing in 10 minutes and we still haven't voted.
No, a duty to demonstrate our commitment, both as leaders and as citizens, to keeping America a republic. A republic that resolves its differences not through being ordered to come to the Capitol to prevent them from stealing the election, which was an absurd assertion from the very first day it was made. We cannot erase the last 4 years, Madam Speaker. We cannot turn back the clock. But we can look to the ideals and principles inherited from great presidents like Washington, like Jefferson, and yes, certainly like Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt, and from outstanding Americans like Frederick Douglass,
hope you do too.
Harriet Tubman, Susan Anthony, Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King, Thurgood Marshall.
All right, folks, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think about Homeboy here? Is he cool? Is he not cool? Who's this, Steyer or Hoyer or something like that?
It's up to us to restore the vibrancy, Madam Speaker, of our democracy by reaffirming our commitment to the norms they passed on to us and entrusted to our care. But to make that possible, Madam Speaker, we must rise to this moment and not only affirm the virtues we cherish, but reject the vices we abhor. That's what I'm asking my fellow representatives on both sides of the
It wouldn't make sense if this guy's filibustering because he's one of the Democrats and he's in favor of impeachment, so it wouldn't make sense for him to be trying to delay.
And a threat to the very democracy that we hold so dear and swore an oath to protect and uphold. Reject deceit. Reject fear-mongering.
Oh, he's doing the closing arguments, okay.
Reject sedition, tyranny, and insurrection. Reject the demand for fealty to one man over fidelity to one's country. When I addressed the House during the debate over the articles of impeachment in December 2019, I said the following.
Puka, I want you to draw on this paper.
Who will be the
what
first to show
stock
courage
should
by
we
standing
buy?
up to President Trump.
Yeah, just that paper right there.
The question
Here
we
you go.
must ask,
Here you go. Right
who
on
will
this.
be the last
Use this.
to find it?
This marker.
Senator McConnell,
All right.
Representative Cheney, a number of other representatives who have spoken on this floor with great courage. Madam Speaker. Because there is much fear of Donald Trump. There's much fear of Donald Trump's tweets. There's much
You got
fear
right
of
with
Donald
this.
Trump's
All right. She's going to give us a stock
retribution
pick, guys.
for opposition. In my view,
No,
Donald
she's
Trump
putting the marker away.
demands absolute loyalty.
Guys, Becky wants you to
and
hold.
gives none in return.
She wants you to not trade. She's putting the
I hope
marker
others
away.
will
So
join
that's a no.
Liz Cheney. I hope others will be honest with themselves and with their
Yeah, is that what you want?
constituents. As Liz
Okay.
Cheney was saying, there has never been a greater
This dude has
betrayal
talked about
by a
Liz
president
Cheney
of the
like
United
8
States
times.
of his office and his oath to the Constitution. Don't dismiss that. She's the
do you
daughter
want
of
to
a vice
draw with
president of
this?
the United States
Here, right?
who was the whip when I came to Congress. As she has taken a stand, I hope others will as well, Madam Speaker. Soon,
Hey, Puka.
the clerk will call the roll.
How about you play with this? All right, good.
And
Call
ask
the
for our
roll.
votes.
Let's get this vote going.
Make no mistake,
Watch the stock market drop 4% after hours.
this will be no ordinary roll call.
I'll be fucking furious.
This is about our country, our Constitution, and our democracy. These votes will be inscribed on the roll of history, a record of courage and of our commitment to country and Constitution, of our commitment to the rule of law and renewal of that which we inherited and hope to pass on, unbroken, unshattered.
He's not a bad speaker. Honestly.
With just 7 days left in the president's term, this vote is not about timing. It is about
League,
principle.
that's what the 3K challenge was supposed to be.
And
But
fidelity
shit, man, it's so
to
much more
our
time consuming than I thought it would be.
It concerns
I would love to do that one day once
danger
this
facing our country.
once this
Not
little
only
creature's old
in
enough to
the
shut up.
days of the Trump administration, but in the weeks, months, and years that will follow. It is about the necessity to demonstrate
Hey, Unit League,
to
you
this
think?
generation
I mean,
and to
would you
future
guys?
generations the duty we
Would you guys
share
want to do
protect
that? Like,
our
I can make a
democracy
YouTube partnership
every
or a YouTube
single day.
subscription thing where people just throw $1 in there
Do
for me
not
to
pretend,
dick
my
around
friends,
with.
that it was simply those
If you really want.
who came
I don't
into
know
the
if that's
Capitol,
really a good thing to do.
encouraged
but
by our president
if you guys
to
want that, I
stop the
will be
steal
more than happy to provide.
at any cost. And by the way, if the vice president doesn't do my bidding and follows the Constitution, sweep him away. We know that this
You guys
president
are
would
like
never
any video.
emulate George Washington. and
All right,
give
I'll
up
tell
his
you what,
power
guys.
for
I'll
the
make
good of our
a
republic,
YouTube
even after losing
partnership
an election.
membership thing where you just like
Somebody talked about a
throw me
peaceful
$1 and
transition.
I'll
There has not
trade
been a
meme
peaceful
stocks like a
transition.
dipshit.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll try to
You
do.
don't
I can
live
do
in
it
the same
live.
country I am.
That's easy, but I can't do it as like a scripted video with like stories and everything like that.
It was
That's
just days
ridiculous.
ago that the president,
There's no way I'd have time to do
after
that.
committing this terrible
But I
act,
love the idea. I just
he
hope I'd
had
be able to
admit
deliver before I start asking people to give me $1.
might, yes, be president of the United States. We know that this president neither recognizes norms nor reflects the rule of law. We know that this president
Yeah,
is
zombie.
not a
What you
patriot.
just said cannot go tits up is totally
So I
accurate.
ask this House,
Totally accurate.
who among us,
My
Madam
basis
Speaker,
would
will
literally be
reported
0,
on the roll
and that
of
would give me
history for
free
their
reign to
courage,
just screw around.
their commitment, the Constitution, and their
Trade
country.
some meme stocks.
We do this today not
Watch
for
me make
politics.
50 grand off
We
it.
don't need this for politics. Georgia showed that. There was no mistake in this election.
Yeah, I hear you, dog. It's
we
time
do
to
this
vote.
today
This has been a long
to
stream
preserve
already.
and protect
How long have I been on?
this great democracy. We do it for the America we love. Our America the beautiful, whose founders' sacrifices we praise in song. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self, their country loved, and mercy more than life.
Unit Leaks is how's being a dad so far. It's exactly like this. This, what you're seeing right now, is how being a dad is.
Speaker, as our current president, the appropriate words would be, who less than self, his country loved, and victory
Oh shit, this dude might be delaying until the market closes. I didn't even think about that. You're too loud. Too loud, baby.
For history. I yield back the balance of my
Whoa! Pursuant to House Resolution 41, the previous
Alright, let's do this. Vote, 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 vote. Say go, 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 go.
Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion
That's how they did it?
the ayes have it. The gentleman from Ohio.
What the hell is VTuber?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We'd ask for a roll call vote.
Pursuant
Thank
to
you. Roll call
Section
vote. Let's do it.
3S of House Resolution 8, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by an electronic
Vote,
well, you heard the voice vote there a moment ago on the resolution, but now it will go to the roll call here, and it will take a considerable House Majority Leader delivering the final arguments for the Democrats-led court to impeach Donald Trump on a single article incitement of insurrection. As well as more than 2 hours of debate, Republicans and Democrats taking turns to frame their positions. Not a lot of defense on the Republican side.
Couple of flippers here.
By themselves, but plenty of charges of hypocrisy on the point of Democrats.
Do you want to play with this?
I want to bring in right now Savannah Guthrie, who's co-anchoring our coverage with me. Savannah, it's a foregone conclusion that Democrats have the votes to pass this, but notably they will have some Republican support.
Yes, this will be the second impeachment.
Look at them go. They're voting as soon. The minute the market closes, they start voting. Let's see what happens after hours here.
Yes, in favor of, and we'll know more as this roll call vote unfolds. It's happening over the course of the next few minutes here. I want to bring in Chuck Todd, and Chuck, keep your ear out because we're watching what's happening on the House floor right now. As we understand it, this roll call vote was
All right, what's the after hours moves here?
Of how many Republicans have broken ranks, but the one that sort of broke the dam is Liz Cheney, the number 3 Republican in the House, obviously from a Republican dynasty family. Her father was vice president.
All right, hey, weed stocks went up a little bit. I'm looking good on Afria and YOLO. Hey, if you guys are looking for a weed play right now, I recommend YOLO. YOLO, that's the ticker. I'm not saying YOLO into weed stocks. I'm saying YOLO is the ticker.
I think it sent a signal that essentially, certainly from the establishment wing of the party, where they stand on this. And in fact, that was my chief observation.
I think it's a pretty well accepted that he was going to get impeached because the Democrats already have the votes regardless. But we might get an indicator of how the Senate is going to go based on how many Republicans defect to the Democratic side today. So far, it looks like 3, so it's not this huge bipartisan impeachment. They 100% chose that ticker on purpose. Yeah, YOLO does have options. They do. So I'm long YOLO shares and Afria APHA options calls. Hey, Zombie, you do some.
I wouldn't be. Those are the folks that would follow Liz Cheney. Would be these folks here. In fact, one of these ranking members, John Katkow, is already on the record for impeachment. And one other point here, to just show you how unprecedented this is, there are already more members of the president's own party voting to impeach him than did Bill Clinton or Andrew Johnson. Savannah.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the folks speaking today, largely the true believers, Trump's most ardent supporters in the Congress. We want to go to Casey Hunt now, who's on the Hill for us. It was interesting to hear Kevin McCarthy, who is the the Republican leader in the House, and he seemed to try to walk a very fine line, didn't he?
He did, Savannah, and I think it reflects exactly
hey guys, the reason
what we were just talking about with Chuck, which is the division, and frankly,
the reason I favor ETFs when it comes to weed stocks is because we don't really have a good bead on which companies are going to be successful in the weed industry. We don't know which ones are really going to come out on top. So you can invest into a whole bunch of different ones, or you can invest in a single ETF. And that's what I like doing. I think YOLO has really good exposure to the U.S., but it also has some partnerships with Canada, and I like that. I like the opportunity to take advantage of the established companies in Canada and the United States where things are just starting to bud. If you want strict exposure to the US, NSOS is the way to go. That one's just US companies. Has a lot of potential. I think you might miss out on some of the partnerships that you could have if you chose YOLO and have some of that Canadian exposure. I think US and Canadian companies will work together.
Very notable, and tells you just how divided things are here in the House. And remember too, the House of Representatives has
I would have bought
been
a ton of YOLO if I could buy shares on Merrill Lynch, but it's forbidden. So I got to buy in Robinhood, which is a much, much smaller account.
He is extremely popular. A couple of the newly elected members, frankly, are conspiracy theorists who have been involved in some of the types of thinking that ultimately motivated those groups to come to Washington. And
you could also sell puts, yeah, and then use the premium for shares.
Why there are magnetometers now checking
yeah, like a synthetic long position,
heading down to the House floor. This, of course, once this is finished, it's going to move to the Senate, and the Senate has not been typically significantly a supportive place.
You guys didn't tell me that this is frozen.
President Trump. They have gone along with him at many turns. He has a couple hardcore supporters in the Senate, but as Chuck was alluding to, and you have been talking about, Mitch McConnell has signaled that he's pleased that this impeachment's going forward and that he's open to a conviction. He said that his office put out part of a note that he sent to his Republican colleagues today, where he said exactly that he was thinking about voting to convict this president. He didn't say he had made up his
Tortoises
mind
live over 150
but that is
years.
A really striking statement from the majority leader here in the Senate. It doesn't mean that there are the 17 Republican
Jerry,
votes that
Robinhood is good for starting out in the first couple months of trading. Once you understand how to trade, you don't need that anymore.
Never hold office again, Savannah.
Yeah, Casey, I think you compared it to white smoke coming out of the Vatican, a huge signal. Lester?
CJ Max Smith,
We've
yes.
been watching the vote totals on the screen.
You don't own the shares until you actually own the shares.
May be switched. It takes longer these days because of COVID protocols, not wanting to have everyone in the same area at the same time. But we'll continue to watch that vote play out. In the meantime, I want to bring in Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander. Peter, while this debate was going on, we heard from the president. What did he say?
Yeah, that's right, Lester. This president is increasingly isolated. In the words
Stocks are not moving
he is
after hours. That's good.
Right now, we're told that he watched most of today's proceeding, this debate over the course of the last couple of hours from inside the Oval Office and the adjacent dining room. And earlier, given the ban that he has now from Twitter and other social media outlets looking for a way to communicate his thoughts in real time, the White House did provide a statement to Fox News, later shared widely with the president, among other things, now exactly a week after that violent mob we saw storm the Capitol. The president called for Americans to ease tensions and calm tempers. I'll read part of what he said in this statement. He said, in light of reports of more demonstrations, I urge that there must be no violence, no law breaking, and no vandalism of any kind. That is not what I stand for, and it is not what America stands for. It's notable, this statement from the president, because just 24 hours the president accepted no responsibility, showed no remorse for what took place last week. He called his comments that preceded the violent siege totally appropriate. And also notable right now, and a former White House official tells us what they are struck by as they witness this is that the president really does not have any voice in this process. The speed with which it's occurring means that the president doesn't have any hearings. He has no legal counsel defending him, no sort of defense other than from some of his allies up there on Capitol Hill today. Jim Jordan, who the president awarded the Medal of Freedom earlier this week, reading that statement that I just shared moments earlier. But the difference between the way this White House is now versus a year ago during the first impeachment is dramatic. Last time there were legal advisors, White House officials who were huddling, coming out to speak to reporters. This time the place is much more chaotic, and in many ways it's really a ghost town. Hard to get any clear sense of where things stand, and much more difficult, almost impossible, to find anybody in and around this White House willing to come out and publicly defend this president.
All right, Peter, thank you. Let me bring in Chief Washington Correspondent Andrea Mitchell. So, Andrea, presuming the votes are there and that they vote to impeach here over the next hour, what happens next? We know Mitch McConnell's office now signaling they won't take it up before inauguration, and he's not even sure where he's going to vote, despite reports that he was leaning toward impeachment. So where does this go?
Well, first of all, we have to see how the vote goes, because so far, as I'm now looking at the screen, there are about 5 Republicans who have already voted for it. That's not a final vote. They can always change their vote. We're told that 7 have said they will vote for it. So already this looks like this will be bipartisan. Certainly the signal from Liz Cheney that Chuck was referring to was terribly important. That is what Steny Hoyer was using in his closing argument, repeatedly saying that the number 3 ranking Republican, who is a rising star in the party, is the person who said that there's been no greater betrayal of the Constitution and of his office than what this President of the United States has done. That said, it's going to be delivered to the Senate, but the Senate is not in session.
Okay.
And the Senate can only be called back.
Becky's being pretty out of control, so I'm going to put her for her nap. I'll come back afterwards. You guys can either chill or bounce, whatever you want to do. I'll leave this on in case you guys want to keep arguing with each other. But we know how this vote is going to go. It's shaping up that way already. So, all right, thanks for tuning in to the stream, guys. I'll come check in later after I put her down and see if anybody's still around.
Or he can make a decision that when the Senate comes back on January 19th, it is heard, or he can decide to do it sooner. It's really all up to him. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have no control over that. It's going to be delivered to the clerk of the Senate, and that is where it'll sit until and unless they are called back into session. Lester?
All right, Andrea, let me send it over to Savannah now.
Yeah, and I want to bring into this conversation former acting Solicitor General and NBC News legal analyst Neil Katyal. And Professor Katyal, by all chances, if this comes over to the Senate, it will be after the president has left office. Legally, is that permissible? Is there a debate as to that question?
I think it is permissible. So 3 facts just right at the outset struck me before getting to your question. First, the location of this debate going on. It's on our hallowed floor of Congress. It's also a crime scene. Second, this is all going on against the backdrop of thousands of troops now in Washington, D.C., projected to be 15,000, which is far more than we have in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan combined. And then third, Savannah, as you said, this is not the president's first rodeo. He already was impeached a year ago. And so now the question is, can he be impeached even if he's going to leave office? And the Constitution, our founders, were very wise. They said there's 2 different things that happen when you've been impeached and convicted. One is you can be removed from office, but the other is you can be barred, a lifetime bar from future office holding. That's in the text of the Constitution itself. And indeed, in 1876, Secretary Belknap of the War Department was impeached and convicted after he had left office. So I think it's certainly possible. There is a debate about if an impeachment starts after someone has fully left office, but that's one reason why you see the House moving with such velocity right now. The impeachment process has begun while Donald Trump is president.
One of the objections that we heard today from the Republican side of the aisle was there's no process here, that there weren't hearings, there weren't witnesses, that you are taking on this weighty matter of impeaching the president, but rushing it through and ramming it through with just a week left in the president's administration. What do you think there's merit? Does that set a precedent that might disturb you?
I mean, now they want to have witnesses and so on. Remember, last year they were all saying there should be no witnesses, there should be a streamlined process. And last year was actually complicated. You did need a bunch of witnesses. Here,
that was in the Senate, though, right?
Excuse me, but even in the Senate, the president's actions here really do speak for themselves. And, if this were a criminal case in which the question were his mens rea, his level of intent, then I could see the need for some extensive process. But otherwise, I think the case here is you've got a guy who said what he said. He said so after he was warned not to. Gabe Sterling, the Georgia official, on December 1st said, Mr. President, don't say this kind of stuff. Stop it. Otherwise, someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get shot. Someone's going to get killed. That's what he said on December 1st. What did the president do? Kept saying the same nonsense and incitements. And so, I don't know what process there is past the process that we've had.
All right, well, we continue to keep our eye on this roll call vote, and if you're just tuning in, the House is in the midst of impeaching President Donald Trump for the second time. There are Republicans who are crossing the aisle for this vote. We have reports of 8 total so far that we know of who will join the Democrats who are united in voting to impeach him this afternoon. Now, Lester, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, we see 6 on that tally board right now, but of course that continues to change. Senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson is standing by right now. Hallie, I think everyone is watching that Republican number, and certainly Republicans in the Senate as they decide which way they want to go.
No kidding, Lester. Savannah mentioned the tally, as far as NBC News has confirmed, is up to 8 House Republicans now, and that is because just as we were talking and having this conversation during the vote, you had Ohio Republican Congressman Anthony Gonzalez, coming out saying that he feels compelled to support impeachment as well. You can see the statement there from Congressman Gonzalez. So you heard Chuck talk about the impact of Congresswoman Liz Cheney coming out supporting impeachment, what that meant. We are starting to see some of the impact of that now as this vote is unfolding. Keep in mind that as you look at those numbers, as you look at the tally, those things could change until this vote is gavelled, which is why we are cautious about talking about vote totals until they're actually gavelled in. But I have to tell you, Lester, one of the things that I found interesting in my reporting on this over the last 24 hours has been the startling, in the eyes of some, lack of outreach, or perhaps not so startling, depending how you see it, from the White House to those on the Hill. There is no whip effort that is happening. There is no big push to try to get House Republicans in line and on board with the president. One person that I spoke with pointed to, for example, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and said very sarcastically, boy, it looks like he has it handled, huh? You also have somebody who normally would be taking on some of that role, Vice President Mike Pence, who has consistently, throughout the course of this administration, leaned on his past, his relationships, his history with these members of Congress to be a liaison between the White House and between Capitol Hill. For very obvious reasons, that is not happening. Now, the Vice President is continuing his public schedule. We now have word of a trip he's going to take to West Virginia later on this week, but he is certainly not that present on Capitol Hill with his relationship, at least is described to me by my sources, broken with President Trump. Sure, they spoke earlier this week. It was by most accounts cordial, perfectly normal, but certainly not the kind of meeting that they would have had, let's say, 6 weeks, 2 months ago, 3 years ago even. So the absence of any kind of impact or any kind of pressure from the White House, discussions from the White House, is notable. And I think that it is not to be missed, not to be understated. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, who was, as Savannah and Casey were talking about, walking that line, decrying in some ways the president's actions, but not going so far as to cross the line on impeachment. Now the ball goes to the Senate Republicans, and there is a question there of how many Senate Republicans you could get on board. It is not clear at this point. The timeline is becoming clear. It's going to stretch into the early days of the Biden administration. I spoke with, for example, a Democratic leader in Congress who had initially supported pressing pause on that, maybe delaying sending this article of impeachment, if it passes as expected, over to the Senate until President-elect Biden gets a little further into his term, just so you're not juggling all this stuff. It seems as though the headwinds are moving in the other direction, partly because Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has suggested that he will move fairly quickly on this. There's not going to be a ton of foot dragging, Lester.
All right, Hallie Jackson, thank you. Joining us now, Jake Sherman, who covers Congress as the co-founder of Punchbowl News, and he's an NBC News political contributor. And Eugene Robinson, Washington Post columnist and associate editor, also an NBC News political contributor. Good to have both of you for our coverage. Eugene, let me start with you if I can. The Republican defense of President Trump was tepid at best. Mainly this seemed to be about the idea that this was political. But does that ring a bit more hollow than it did the last time? We're no longer in an election year.
Yeah, it rang very hollow. I mean, you heard the Matt Gaetzes of the world. You heard the true believers, the members of the Republican members of Congress who are closest to President Trump, give a more vigorous defense. But the defense was generally pretty tepid. Well, one thing you did not hear from Republicans, except from Kevin McCarthy, who kind of said it, is the whole central point of this whole argument, which is Joe Biden won a free and fair election over Donald Trump. Donald Trump lost that election. It was a normal, free and fair election, and it just did not work out the way Donald Trump wanted it to. And you did not hear that from Republicans, except maybe from Kevin McCarthy. You certainly did not hear that in the statement that President Trump released during the debate, calling for calm, calling for no more violence, but again, not acknowledging the central issue, the whole reason for the, quote, Stop the Steal rally in the first place, is that he lost the election. Until there's a reckoning on that fact, I think we should continue to be concerned, not just about Inauguration Day, but what happens afterwards. There has to be an acknowledgement that just happened, and there wasn't a full acknowledgement to that.
For the Hill, you know the Hill very well, Jake. You're doing some head counting too. I mean, there was talk before this day that at least 5 Republicans might cross over. It seems the number is up to 8. I'm sure you're keeping an eye on it too, but what would be a number so significant that it might change the analysis in terms of the Senate? Because it feels like right now the way Mitch McConnell has this posture is, I'm waiting and seeing, I'm going to see which way this goes, and the scales could tip, but it really seems like he's waiting to see how many Republicans defect today.
Yeah, it's exactly right, Savannah. Great question. I would say that number is somewhere between 15 and 20. A vote that healthy, that overwhelming, would obviously make a lot of senators think about their calculus, because remember, a lot of the senators who are up for election in 2022 or 2024 could face challenges from conservative or right-wing Republicans in the House of Representatives. So they're going to be watching this very closely, but I agree with what Casey said earlier, which is Mitch McConnell is not ruling out the fact that he might vote to convict Donald Trump. I think that's incredibly important to note, because the last time President Trump was impeached, he came out of the gates and said, this is meritless, this is meaningless, and we all know how this is going to end. It was something along those lines. He's not saying that now. There is no defense. The defense is this is a rushed process. We've not heard a single substantive, really, defense of what the president did, just trashing Democrats for the riots from last summer. So again, just a really, really notable split, incredibly notable split based on the last couple of years, that we could have upwards of 10, as many as 20 Republicans vote to impeach Donald Trump, and then it goes over to the Senate.
Yeah, and we're up to 9 now, just so you know, Jake. We just, our calculation is we've got 9 Republicans crossing over, so those are the numbers we're watching, Lester.
Yeah, Eugene, I want to ask you about what the end game here is, especially for Republicans, and what Mitch McConnell had reportedly said in some of the reporting leading up today. Is part of this getting him out of the game, erasing him from the Republican calculation going forward?
Well, I think that's what Mitch McConnell would like to do, and I think that's what a lot of Republicans would like to do, but other Republicans either would not want to do that, or don't think it's possible, or are afraid to try. I mean, the assumption, I think, is that Donald Trump is likely to have a lot of influence over the Republican base, one way or another, after he's out of office. And I think Mr. McConnell sees potentially the opportunity to really reduce that and to take the party back. I mean, Trump did conduct a hostile takeover of the Republican Party, and establishment Republicans would love to take it back. But the Mitch McConnell's and Liz Cheney of the party may not right now have the power to do that. That's going to be the great uncertainty for the party going forward.
All right, Eugene and Jake, thanks to both of you. I want to go back to Casey Hunt on Capitol Hill. She's not only watching this count along with us, but she may be ahead of it in terms of what we're hearing from some of the members. Casey, what's the latest?
Well, Lester, we are up to 9 Republican members of the House who have voted to impeach President Trump. The one surprise, Congressman Tom Rice of South Carolina. We didn't have a statement from him ahead of his vote. And we should just remind everyone that as long as this vote's open, members of Congress can go in and change their votes. But his has stood at a yes, impeach the president for quite some time now. So we wanted to make sure that we got it onto our list. Otherwise, it's still that list that we have been talking about. Congressman Katko from New York was the first Republican to come out. He said last night he was going to vote to do this. You also have Fred Upton from Michigan, as you've been talking about extensively. Liz Cheney from Wyoming, who came out and said that this was a constitutional matter and that she was going to vote to impeach Donald Trump. Again, she is the number 3 elected Republican leader in the House. She is a very top-ranking official there, and of course the daughter of Dick Cheney, the former vice president. So a pretty significant stand for her. Some others, Peter Myers, a freshman congressman from Michigan, he has come out a couple times in the last couple of days talking about just how difficult this week has been for other members, for his colleagues, and what they all have been facing personally in a way that's really made him stand out. This is, of course, just his first couple of weeks here in the House of Representatives. Adam Kinzinger of Illinois also voting for impeachment. We knew he was going to do that. He was the only Republican to support invoking the 25th Amendment, which of course they voted on late last night in the House. Otherwise, we've all been focused on impeachment. So we still have quite a few Republicans outstanding. As many as 80 have yet to vote, so we're still keeping a very close eye on this. As Jake said, the estimates we had going in here, I had heard between 6 and 12 initially, and then once Liz Cheney came out, there were some estimates that it could be higher than that. But it does seem like we're going to be in a little bit of a lower range here. And I think the question here is it enough to underscore the depth of anger at President Trump to get Republican senators to vote to convict him? And it's clear Mitch McConnell has said that he is open to that. He's also said he's not going to start any trial until at least January 19th. So that does give a period of time for people to reflect, to learn more perhaps about what happened. The reality here is that the more that we have learned about this attack, the more, frankly, terrifying it is. And the clearer it's become that we had a very, very narrow miss of something far, far worse, even as bad as we knew it was when it was unfolding on Wednesday. There's also the question of whether the president continues to incite his supporters or takes steps to try and calm the situation. They put out a written statement today that seemed to be in the calming direction, but we also know that the president often is at odds with his own aides. He had put out a statement on Wednesday, a video statement, that he later seemed to suggest he regretted doing at all. So I think there are a lot of Republicans watching to see what President Trump himself does over the course of the next week as we try and figure out if this transition of power is actually going to be peaceful ahead of the inauguration. I got to tell you, Lester, it's it's both reassuring and unsettling, I would say, to have come into this building and this morning to dozens of National Guard troops, people in military uniforms sleeping on the floors here in the Capitol. It's only happened a handful of times in our history since troops were quartered here in the Civil War, and I know everyone who's up here is grateful that they're here to prevent what happened on Wednesday, but also it's a pretty terrifying reminder that we are not out of the woods yet in terms of what may unfold both here in Washington and also in state capitals across the country. Lester?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine just a week ago, you and I sitting here describing the events as they transpired, many of them right outside those doors we're looking at right now. Casey, thanks. We'll go back as we watch the tally. You can see a number of members have not voted yet. Von Hilliard on the streets of Washington now. He has a look at the security measures now in place that Casey was just talking about. Von?
That's what you guys were just talking about, those National Guards members. We should note, I had a conversation with an official from the Department of Defense just today who tells me there are now more than 6,600 National Guardsmen on the scene here in Washington, D.C. Hundreds of them are behind me here. We should note, just 1 week ago when Lester, you and I spoke, all that was up, essentially keeping the general public away from the steps of the Capitol, was about a 4-foot little guard rail. What you see now today is a 7-foot fence here erected with hundreds of National Guardsmen helping Capitol Police here. But this is not the only layer. I want to give folks an idea of where we're at right now. We're at the intersection of 1st Street and East Capitol. And as you go across the street, you'll see the U.S. Supreme Court, which is part of these Capitol grounds. But there's another fence, another 7-foot fence that extends the perimeter back, another back 250 yards up to 2nd Street. And National Guardsmen as well as Capitol Police are also protecting that area there. I was talking to the Department of Defense official here who tells me the other significant news of the day is the fact that the Secretary of the Army approved National Guardsmen to be armed. That is where you saw here today for the first time. Individuals, these guardsmen, actually armed here around Washington, D.C. It's tough to get around anywhere from here, from the Capitol, all the way down to the White House now. We were here earlier when some cargo trucks were being loaded with M4 rifles and being taken here around the city. I mean, we should know. Lester, you've been around enough inaugurations. This is not typically what Washington, D.C. looks like a week before inauguration. But it's telling to know what is happening inside right now with these impeachment proceedings, and the fact that there is this extensive of a perimeter a week before inauguration and while these impeachment proceedings are underway. Lester?
Yeah, Vaughn, and I had seen somebody had tweeted a little bit earlier a frame grab of an Apple map, and it showed all the closures in the D.C. area. How is the city, how is government even able to function right now under that kind of lockdown?
You know, we have to have our media badge to get to where our bureau is at, which is not on the Capitol grounds. That is the extent to which the greater D.C. is shut down. These National Guardsmen, we should note, are not just here to aid law enforcement, but they're also here to help serve as medical support. They're here for traffic purposes, logistical support. Washington, D.C. Is essentially shut down here over the course of this next week. You know, we should know, yesterday, folks are still traveling down this roadway here, and the Department of Defense official telling me, yes, there are 6,600 National Guardsmen now. They expect that number to be ramped up all the way to 15,000 by next Wednesday.
All right, Vaughn Hilliard, thank you for watching and bringing us that scene outside the Capitol. Let's go back to Savannah now.
Yeah, and Lester, joining me on the phone is Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, a Republican who crossed the aisle just now and voted yes for impeachment. Congressman, it's good to have you with us. First of all, why you felt compelled to cast this vote today. You also, I should mention, voted yesterday to have Vice President Pence invoke the 25th Amendment to remove the president from office immediately, a vote that failed. Now, tell me about your vote, and are you worried, frankly, about paying a political price for it?
You know, I voted this way because if the president, the Article 2 branch of the Constitution inciting an insurrection, Article 1 is not impeachable, then we almost maybe should just throw away that whole process. This was, you know, an attack on American democracy. It's not just about the violence, it's about the message about American democracy, which is exactly the process we use to prevent violence in this country. So I think it was the right vote. Do I worry about my political future? Not really, because honestly, I never got into this to build some political empire. I did it to do the right thing, and I'm in total peace today that my vote was the right thing. And
Becky has clearly demonstrated that she's not interested in taking a nap, so I guess I'll just see what's going on down here before I leave this thing on too long and end up getting like demonetized for not interacting with the actual video.
That being unfair to
yeah, I came back here at the end. Looks like they're getting wrapped up, and Becky here has no interest in napping. So, I guess I'm stuck with her for a little bit longer. I was hoping to get an hour to work on the Dank Trades video. That's the next one I'm working on. But I don't think I'm getting that today. So, hold off until another day. So I'll just be a dad for the next couple hours.
In terms of division, it may. But the real thing,
she likes the case of cold steel.
The division in this country that led to what happened was the President of the United States. And,
yeah, I think having some downtime, even just trying to get her to relax, kind of helped out. Now she's enjoying the taste of stainless steel. She's eating a medal that I got for doing the Spartan race back in like 2016 in Italy. No, we don't do that. We don't scream. We don't scream. Is anybody still watching? How many of you guys are still in
here? A 10th Republican has crossed the aisle and voted with the Democrats and with you to impeach the president. But you said you don't want to question motives, fair enough, but are you disappointed that more Republicans have not joined your view of things? I mean, there are 211 Republicans.
Oh, is there like 130 people watching this thing?
Taking this
what, is it all bots?
Under pretty extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah, I am disappointed. I mean, it's I think quite honestly,
My
a
poor
lot of the
ears.
motivation.
I'm sorry, guys. I know she's still screaming. She calmed down a little bit, but she's not taking a nap. She's too big. She's a big girl now. She doesn't take 2 naps today.
I certainly wish there were more.
All right. Hey, there are still people here. What's going on, guys?
We will go forward. This process goes forward, but if
Alex Livingston is not really sure why he's here. I know, neither am I, man. I just wanted to see the vote, but it looks like they're done.
cannot sustain politics like it's been happening.
I don't know how much you have your ear to the ground, but I'm sure you saw the signal that was sent pretty transparently.
Streisand
from McConnell's
effect.
office. There was a
Yeah.
report in the New York Times that he was pleased with the
Millions is
Democrats
greater than paying for
pursuing
cable.
impeachment. He has indicated now that he's open and will
okay.
listen
Do
to
you want
the
this?
arguments. It's a huge change
No?
in posture versus, say, a year ago with the previous.
Thank you guys for
might
staying
happen
with
with
me
your
and
colleagues
help me
over on
run
the
my
Senate
numbers
side?
up.
Do you think there's an
So yes,
actual
this is
chance
looking like, all right, so there's
that
7 votes.
crossover in the Senate?
All right, you got to stop doing that. All right, you got to put your binky
I
in.
certainly do. And if you look at the day of the attack,
There's 7 votes still not cast, but the split right now is 297 to 229. So even if all 7 voted no, that's still not enough, and it looks like he will indeed be impeached for a second time. There's no mail-in votes, so there's no comeback for the no's. It's going to happen. He's going to get impeached again. Now, it's going to go to the Senate, and the Senate can remove him from office, but not until January 20th, at which point he's already removed from office because Joe Biden will be president. Or I think it's January 19th, something like that. But in any case, they're not going to remove him. They're not even going to be able to remove him from office, even if they want to. I don't think that they're going to get 2/3 of senators to agree to remove him from office. I think they will get all of the Democratic senators. I don't think they're going to get that kind of Republican support that they need.
How do you see that?
I mean, 66 senators is a lot of senators to agree on anything, let alone removing the president from power after he's already out of office. So it's not gonna make a difference as far as governance goes. It's pretty much done. If he gets impeached and convicted by the Senate, he's going to lose the ability to run again. He's going to lose his pension, and he's going to lose his state-sponsored security and all that stuff. I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make for him. I know if he wants a militia to protect him, he's going to have one. I don't know if that's really what he wants. I wouldn't particularly want that. You know, like the QAnon folks providing personal protection. But he could probably have that if he wants it. I don't think he's really worried about the pension. And I think, honestly, him not being able to run again is going to do more damage to the Democratic Party than the Republican Party. I think the best thing that can happen for the Democrats is that he runs again, because it'll fracture the Republican Party. So I think, in that respect, this actually backfires.
Well, I mean, I think they look at it in some ways. They're trying.
There's also a symbolic portion of this here. You know, they want to press for justice.
Talked about seeing if we could have some sort of split-screen Senate trial, meaning they do half days of the trial because the Biden team.
You know, this baby acts so sleepy, but then I try to put her to sleep.
That for whatever it is, it delays confirmations, and of course, there's some worst-case scenario that somehow this would polarize things and make it even harder because everybody goes more party line. I don't happen to believe that. I think this is becoming bipartisan enough that you're starting to see these will be the first Republicans that are part of any Biden governing coalition. You know, these are. You look at many of these Republicans, some of them come.
Becky is very upset with the impeachment proceedings. She thinks it was silly. She wants her stimulus. You know, I haven't gotten a single stimulus for her yet. I was supposed to get the one from 2020, the 2021, and if we don't get the next one, I'm gonna sue somebody. I'm gonna go knock on Mitch McConnell's door and say it's time to give me Becky's stimulus so we can invest it into Starbucks, Lulu, and Ulta. That's what we need to do.
I think that gives you a clue.
It's time to get some stimulus
here.
here.
Head up the Biden Congressional Liaison Office. You're looking already. You're scouring these speeches. You're looking at the 10 that voted. You're looking at the people that didn't talk today. You know, it's interesting. There's a Congressman, Mike McCall, who was somebody I was keeping an eye on. He's a longtime member of Congress from Texas, not far from Austin. Is very much sort of what you would call a mainstream Republican. Sort of
That's right, Tobias. We're gonna knock on Mitch's shell. What's that, coup politics? He's got it right. Mitch McConnell doesn't have a door, he has a shell. Gonna demand my money. And this goes for Nancy Pelosi too. I don't want any more excuses. You're about to have both houses. You're about to have the White House, and the Supreme Court's not participating. So it's time. Do I think a wheel or a PMCC on YOLO would be better? I mean, they're both very similar strategies. I think the PMCC is the way to go because it is an index, so you don't have to worry about massive increases and decreases. But you're going to get a steady increase. So a wheel might price you out. A PMCC, I think, is probably the cheaper option. And you can get a larger number of leaps for the same number of shares. So I'd go with the PMCC. It's more buying power efficient.
What I said on the floor, I referred to.
But honestly, don't even worry about all that, man. Just buy shares. That's all you got to do.
I'm quoting, there's never been a greater betrayal by a president of the United States.
Okay, now she wants to go to sleep. See?
Oath to the Constitution.
10 minutes ago, wide awake. Now, trying to go to sleep on my shoulder.
If the Congress was to do nothing in the face of that.
And thank you, secondhand sampler. I appreciate it. All right. Apparently now she wants to go to bed. So let's try this again. Maybe I'll be back down in a couple minutes. Maybe not. Thanks for sticking out and participating, even though I might not be here.
And his followers said, "Stop the steal." I think we would be derelict in our duty to the American people. And even though there's a short time left, and the American people have already decided they wanted a new president and elected Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I think it was incumbent. And our members clearly thought it was incumbent, and you saw many papers throughout the land urging action. The Wall Street Journal itself urged him to resign. They did not urge impeachment, but they urged him to resign. And the object of impeachment was to remove him as quickly as possible, but also to ensure that he does not run for president again.
So, as we watch this vote near its conclusion right now, looks like up to 10 Republicans will side with Democrats. Does that number disappoint you? Would you have hoped for a larger number when all the votes are counted?
Lester, I would have hoped for a unanimous vote on this issue. That was, of course, not what my expectation was. Am I disappointed by 10? No, I'm pleased that 10 people had the courage, as Liz Cheney and as a number of others, including Adam Kissinger and others, to stand up and say, in light of this egregious violation of his oath, the Constitution, and the norms of our democracy, we have no alternative. But I'm pleased.
Do you think that fear was at work?
Of course I think fear is at work, and I said that on the floor. I think that there are literally there are 197 Republicans voting no at this point in time. I don't know how. I would imagine that a number of those, just ideologically and temperamentally, are aligned with Donald Trump. But I think there's about 197. I would be surprised if there weren't at least half of those votes based upon the fear of retribution, either through tweets or some other action the president would take, which would undermine their own political careers.
Have all members voted?
The president. I'm sorry, it looks like Nancy Pelosi is speaking. She has asked if anyone wants to change their vote, so they are coming very close to closing this vote. But they're in the numbers as they stand at this moment. Those are not final numbers you're looking at. Let's bring in Casey Hunt right now, who's watching along with us. Casey, at what point is the vote formally closed?
So, Lester, we are waiting, and I don't want to step on the House Speaker because it's going to be the moment that everyone is waiting for. But she is about to gavel this closed, unless, of course, there are a significant number of members who are coming to her and saying that they wish to change their vote. I mean, that could take a moment or so. But here we go.
32.
The nays are 197. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
So the House has impeached Donald Trump for the second time, but for the first time with Republicans. 10 Republicans crossing the aisle to vote for impeachment, including the number 3 Republican, Liz Cheney, daughter of a former vice president, in an extraordinary moment, 1 week, almost to the hour, after rioters stormed the Capitol, leaving 5 dead.
The chair announces that pursuant to Section 3A of House Resolution 41, the House Resolution 40 is hereby adopted.
And dotting the I there, but again, as you note, Savannah, President Trump has been impeached again.
Clause 11 of Rule 1, in the order the following of the House of January 4th, 2021, of the following members of the House to the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence.
Let's bring it.
Mr. Schiff of California, Chair. Mr. Nunes of California.
So we'll continue to keep our eye on the floor, but the action now moves to the Senate. And there is some suspense, Chuck, as I bring you into this conversation into what exactly could happen there. Now, we know something of the when. We know it won't be before January 19th. The Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, has made that clear as of today. He's not going to use any mechanism to try to bring the Senate back in early. Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader of the Senate, had been floating an idea to do that, but that is not going to happen. So we won't see the Senate in session until at least January 19th, but the question is, then what? How might a trial proceed? Will Republicans cross over to convict? Will enough to remove from office or ban President Trump from holding future federal office if he's already left? Because, of course, the other date to mark on your calendar, January 20th, which is the date that the new president is inaugurated.
Well, here's one thing I would say. Today's January 13th. The start of this trial is January 19th. We're going to learn a lot in 6 days. We're going to get more. Well, every hour we see more people charged. We learn more information about the plot from last week. There is more facts that are filled in. And ask yourself, how much more will we know on January 19th than we know today? That said, you never know what time does, right? What is that? What does time do? Does time calm the waters in the GOP? Does suddenly Lindsey Graham, who apparently is becoming the chief defender against impeachment for President Trump in the Senate, does he have some success finding, he needs at this point to find, to sort of lock in approximately 35 Republicans to do this.
And don't forget the biggest X factor, Chuck, which is President Trump himself. I noted,
right.
I noted that President Trump making his first public appearance, his live public appearance yesterday on his way to Texas, his remarks were followed within just a matter of hours by Mitch McConnell, that report in the New York Times saying, maybe he's open to impeachment. And it's very notable. I mean, it's Washington. We read into things maybe when we shouldn't, but I thought that was very striking. Last week, Mitch McConnell said, you're not going to have any trial. Don't even think about it. And then within hours of the president saying, a lot of people think what I said and how I conducted myself on the day of the riot was totally appropriate. Within hours, Mitch McConnell, with the shot across the bow, hey, this isn't over.
Look, we're still trying to confirm all of that timing, but I'm with you. I thought the entire thing was, it almost now in hindsight, especially Lindsey Graham traveling with the president yesterday, it almost looked like McConnell was like, okay, I'll give you to the end of the day to see if you can get some sort of contrition out of him. Didn't happen. Literally within minutes of him being wheels up from Texas back to D.C., there's that headline in the New York Times. I'm with you. Nothing in this town happens by accident. That is something you learn the longer you cover this place. But look, I think that it's the time issue is one unknown factor. But I'll tell you this. I know of a lot of polling that's being done about this. And I'll tell you, the Republican grassroots have not abandoned Donald Trump. And none of us know how that impacts some of these Republican senators, right? Are they going to be moved by polls or not? Are there 17 Republicans that are thinking the way it appears Mitch McConnell is thinking and going, you know what? Okay, short-term politics, getting rid of impeachment might be a good idea. But long term, having Donald Trump around is not a good idea for the party. So maybe we take the long-term vote. And I'll tell you this, if Mitch McConnell is indeed a yes on impeachment, I promise you there are 16 other Republicans that will join with him.
Wow, well, that's quite the statement, Chuck. We'll see how this all plays out over the coming days. Lester, I'll send it to you. You were in a good conversation with Congressman
Majority Leader
Hoyer.
Congressman Hoyer rejoins me. Thank you for your patience as we watch that vote come in. I want to ask you, we've seen with this president, outrage is sometimes measured in a matter of days, and then we move on to the next thing. Come January 20th, new president, all the attention around that. Do you think that attention will wane from wanting to further to prosecute a trial against the president?
Well, again, the egregiousness of the actions of the president, which, as I say, not us, but Cheney, I think, really captured very, very well. I think it's important that we act, and if in fact Mitch McConnell is thinking of the long-term ramifications, as Chuck was referring to, then I think he would choose to continue, and therefore under the 14th Amendment and under impeachment itself, he would be unable to run for office. I think, frankly, Senator McConnell and others are worried about his long-term adverse impact on the party.
The president put out a statement while you were all debating today, urging there be no violence, no law breaking,
I give up.
Violence, vandalism of any
I
kind.
give up. She won't go to sleep.
Reports that some of his supporters may be planning further action.
All right, who's still here?
Is he relevant anymore in terms of
100 people still left. That's actually kind of a lot for having not been here.
That might change the outcome of this?
Well, you would hope so.
See, the baby's doing this. She's putting her head on my shoulder, acting like she wants to go to sleep. And then I put her down, and she goes ballistic.
That's our whole contention on the actions
just
that happen.
stay where you are and go to sleep right there on my shoulder. How about that?
That they were impelled by the President of the United States. So clearly he has a lot of influence, and hopefully he will urge these folks who are talking about violence, insurrection on the 17th and the 19th, and perhaps violence on the 20th. Hopefully he will legitimately and sincerely and work with his...
I feel like that lady right there in the pink, exhausted.
They ought not to be doing this. I will tell you, though, that there are some of these folks...
Am I still streaming? I got a free day or what? Well, kind of. I'm not going to work today, obviously.
Other than as he did on Wednesday...
Yeah, I mean, if you call this a free day, yeah.
Of preventing the Congress from acting on confirming the electoral...
I mean, what does this baby want? You know,
but
like...
He turns on them, which I think he is
You
very
got a warm bed,
reluctant to do as
crib.
he was in Charlottesville.
Alright,
because
you got a
they're
bottle.
such a strong part of
You're
his
gonna rock
base
to sleep.
that he motivates politically.
Yeah,
And,
dude.
so,
Two parents, both of us working. I'm on swing shifts, all back and
in that
forth.
sense, but he ought to do the right
We're
thing.
on separate shift work schedules.
All right, Congressman Standing Hoyer, thank you so much for
And the
giving us so
baby
much time today. It was good to
who
talk.
refuses to entertain herself. She wants people to play with her all the time.
Savannah.
Let's go to our chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander, who's on duty.
What are they talking about? I'm assuming that they passed it. They're going to go ahead and
What the
impeach.
president might say, now having been
We
impeached
can't
a
get
second time.
a response from
Certainly a
Trump on
question
Twitter
that a lot
because he's
of us
banned.
have.
So.
He has been deprived of his favorite megaphone, Twitter. He's off of Instagram, Facebook, and the like.
Yeah, this baby's going to have one of the most well-documented lives in human history.
Yeah, Savannah, that's exactly right, and I am told
And yeah,
by
when
industry
she's
officials that it's likely this evening
a couple of years older, we're going to show her you did this. Alright, so he really is getting impeached with 10 GOP. Alright, so that's kind of a lot. I mean, it's an amount. How many did he get last time? 0? 0 Republican opposers? I don't think it's going to pass the Senate.
Was inside the Oval Office awarding the National Medal of Arts to two country singers, Ricky Skaggs and Toby Keith. So at the end of the day, as his presidency winds down, just 7
Yeah, we got one of them, Brian. They live a little bit further away, though. Oh, she's waving high, acting all cute. This thing is a nightmare.
Also worth noting today is, as
Look at you, you got everybody fooled into thinking you're a sweetie pie.
This place is increasingly a ghost town. There are fewer and fewer people that are around the president. Certainly not the legal advisors that you would anticipate at a time like this, as compared to the impeachment almost exactly a year ago. And even
Yep,
some of the
do it
president's
second
closest
hand.
advisors have departed as well. NBC News
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think
has now
that
been told
baby
that
stuff in general is
top aides
a
really,
rough investment because fewer and fewer people are having kids, but the ones that are spending more and more money on them.
the White House. I'm told
You wouldn't
by
believe the
those,
amount of crap
familiar
my
with
wife
her
buys
plans that she had planned
to make this baby
depart
slightly
this
more
week
entertained.
Since the president lost in November.
So
This
she's
was not a
YOLOing
decision
in on
made after
ACM.
Since the president lost in
It's
November, this
the
was not a
company, the
decision
infrastructure
made
company that
after
everybody's
the
partnering
rise
with to make all the different hyperloops.
It does mean again
To make
for
the
these
hyperloops.
last 7 days here of the Trump presidency, depending on what happens with this.
Not really a
impeachment,
Becky
there
stock.
are fewer and fewer of those voices, and some of them
She's also
moderating
got
voices.
100 shares.
But again, to answer your question specifically, Savannah, again,
100 shares of Starbucks.
this evening, the only statement we've heard from him over the course of this day in the form of
How
a
much does it
paper
cost to
statement
raise your kid?
social media because he doesn't
Probably
have
like
that access
68,000.
anymore, calling on Americans to ease tensions and calm tempers.
That's
Almost
probably a
exactly
low
1 week
estimate, honestly.
after that awful violence at the Capitol.
It'll be interesting to see what tone he decides to strike with 100 jurors in the United States Senate now listening. Let me turn to somebody who knows this territory very well, Dan Goldman. He was majority counsel for the Democrats in the last impeachment inquiry and former director of investigations for the House Intelligence Committee. So, Dan, we remember seeing you a year ago, but then you were in the hot seat asking the questions. So let me ask you something.
3 Amazon.
There are folks watching this today.
I want to start running
might think,
strangles
"All
on
right,
Amazon."
I
Let me
love
turn
the
this down a little
president's
bit.
rhetoric last week.
I want to start running strangles on Amazon. I want to get into strangles in general. I've done a couple of them with Microsoft now, and it worked out really well. I've done the Triple Q and Microsoft so far, and those have gone well. So I want to start getting into a little bit higher tier. You know, Microsoft is good if you're going to do several. I've only done one at a time just to kind of practice and test it out. So that one's about $250 in gains so far over the past week, which is good. You know, for an experiment, it's a pretty good result. But I want to bring it into a higher tier of stocks. And I'm thinking Alphabet, Google, and Microsoft. And Facebook is also an option, but I'd have to do several contracts of it, not just a single one like I'd be doing with Amazon.
You know, I think when you look at it, first of all, in a Senate
Weed stocks, hey, I've got calls on Afria, and I've got shares of YOLO. That's a weed ETF. You want to get in that one.
So there are a lot of open questions. And in response to that defense,
And QQQJ is a good one.
you're going to look very closely at President Trump's Twitter.
Honestly, any of the tech ETFs are going to do really well. So if a straddle turns against you, alright, it's in that case I'm talking about one side being tested. So if you've got a 100 by $125 strangle, then you want to start looking to roll or adjust if one of those sides gets tested. So if we're at 125 on the price now. I'd hold it for a day or two, and if it looks like the momentum is still strong, then I'm going to roll up that $100 put to a higher strike and pull additional premium. If something really goes against you, like you're, $15 in the money, you might be able to re-bracket once by moving both of them around to a different date. You might come out with a credit, but once you get to that point, man, it shows that there's a lot of momentum. Maybe it's not the right stock for a strangle. You know, just take the loss and move on to something a little bit more stable. You don't necessarily want these massively bullish or bearish stocks when you're strangling. So I think Amazon's kind of been channeling between 3,000 and 3,600 for a while. If you had entered strangles on them a couple of months ago, they'd be looking really good right now. I don't really know much about E-Trade, honestly. They seem kind of old. The real choice is Tasty. Yeah, Tasty's probably the go-to, unless you use Bank of America. In that case, use Merrill Edge, because you get banking benefits.
People came in with pipe bombs, they came in with zip ties, they had a plan.
Somebody's taking my word for it. Would you sell 3 Delta puts on Amazon? Yeah, I mean you can. As long as you've got some way to cover it. I mean, you have to be able to cover it with... Oh, what happened to this guy? Oh, he lost. You've got to be able to cover it with at least your margin allowance. If you can do that, then yeah, sell those really deep out of the money puts. The problem is, those have really deep, they have low gamma, but they have high speed and VONA and VANA and all that other crap. So that means if the stock starts really moving down quickly, you're going to start really seeing that the price of your option rise. And if that strike price does get hit, you could be looking at a massive, massive loss. So make sure you can at least cover it with, we're out of snacks. Make sure you can at least cover assignment with your margins that you can adjust from there. You really don't want to get stuck at like a margin call situation. You can't just throw a tantrum and sort of, what do you think about selling covered calls on Tesla and SPY? Don't sell covered calls on the indices. I'm done with those. I've tried them several times, and they always get blown out. Momentum is just too strong on SPY right now, and the same thing I think is true for Tesla, unless you're selling really out of the money. Right, what do you want now? If you're talking about the indices like SPY, Triple Q, just hold the shares. Like, you don't need to sell covered calls on those unless you're in some kind of short-term bearish situation and you expect a pullback. What do you want? What do you want to take?
I think those responses will be very interesting.
All right, real quick before I let you go, do you consider this, for lack of a better phrase, slam dunk?
Hey, Mac Roberts, what you're talking about with those moving averages, that's called the golden cross and the death cross. So yeah, that is good from a technical analysis standpoint because it really measures momentum very well.
Because it is functionally a anti-democratic coup that the president has.
This is the most family-friendly show I ever did. Well, I got a baby here, so.
You know, I think the Republicans, as you saw today, 10 voted for impeachment. I think it's going to be a very different story.
Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that, Buka. Yeah, I ended up making some money off of GameStop. I went from like 4 to 8, and I was like, yeah, I doubled. I'm out. I'm a genius. And then you know what happened after that. So I'm pretty upset about it. But I did make money, so I can't be too upset. You know, I just wish I had held some shares.
It's unconscionable in our democracy, and the president should be held accountable.
It's really wholesome right now. Yeah.
You're probably the best perspective we have today because you've been there.
It's not as much fun. Well, maybe for you guys, but not really me.
Lester.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, Savannah,
Ryan Eldis sold 400 shares of Plug at 28. What? Plug at 70? Yeah, you might have screwed up, man. Yeah, you might have messed up. That's okay. I mean, you made money. It sounds like so. Unless you sold short. If you sold short, God help you.
With an impeachment trial for someone who is out of office.
So the interesting thing is there seems to be very little pushback from the Senate about the possibility of doing this, and there is historical precedent. We talked earlier about this.
Scritch, yeah, Wheeled Owl. I think that's a good one. Love is even better. Southwest Airlines, LUV, do that one.
Moments after he resigned, but he had already been impeached. The trial went to the Senate. There was a discussion on the Senate floor. We don't have jurisdiction to hear this. He's no longer in office. That was defeated, and they went on to vote on his conviction. Now, as it turned out, it takes a 2/3 vote to convict, and they didn't have the 2/3 vote. But they thought it was appropriate to hold a trial. So there is precedent for this, even though he would be out of office. And the legal experts I've talked to think the president is strengthened if the House has voted to impeach while the president was in office and then was out of office by the time it got to the Senate trial. One other note, Lester, the FBI has now identified 200 people who were in the Capitol last week, and so far they've filed charges against about 30 of them, with more coming every hour.
All right, Pete, thanks. Joining us now, NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss and former Democratic senator from Missouri and an NBC News political analyst, Claire McCaskill. Claire, thank you for being with us. This president was impeached once before, and he continued to serve and continued to be a consequential president. What changes with a second impeachment?
Well, I think this is a moment in history that the members of Congress need to speak to. This is not going to be forgotten. There'll be books written about it. It will be taught in American history for decades to come about this attack on the nation's capital and the riot, the domestic terrorism that was fomented by this president. And so I think it's very important that the Senate weigh in. The majority of people in recent polls in this country say the president should be impeached. And keep in mind, this is very important. You cannot bar the president from running for office unless and until the Senate votes to convict him on the impeachment. Once that would happen, it would have to be by 2/3. Then the Senate can vote by a simple majority to bar Trump from ever running for office again. And believe me, that will be on some of my former Republican colleagues' minds as they make up their mind.
Claire, since you did spend time in that august body, the United States Senate, I assume you're fluent in Mitch McConnell and reading tea leaves. What have you been making of the various actions we've seen from him. I mean, obviously there was a story in the New York Times that suggested he was open and pleased that the Democrats had pursued impeachment. Now he's saying he has made up his mind.
She's not going to be too happy with me right now.
What kind of signal is he sending to his colleagues?
He wanted to send a signal to his colleagues that they were under no pressure to.
Sometimes you just got to put her down. I hate having to put her down like that, you know. So you know, you put her into her crib, and then she gets very, very upset. I hate doing that.
He is the one who's
you kind of got to sometimes, otherwise she just goes nuts.
Trying to get them to commit to not.
I mean, all she's gonna get is a half hour, and I got to go wake Becky up.
So it's ironic that Lindsey Graham, who said he'd had enough on the night they voted to try to overturn the election, that Biden had won fair and square, and that there was no fraud. He now is the president's protector.
Yeah, you try to do everything you can to keep them happy, but I guess sometimes that means letting them cry a little bit. Otherwise, she's gonna go nuts.
Some have wondered where the Nixon moment was in all this.
So it looks like I'm hearing that ARK is setting up a fund specifically for space exploration stocks. So nobody's paying attention to this anymore, right? Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Alright, let's go ARK space exploration. I know that they had space exploration in ARK-Q, but it sounds like they're interested now in setting up an actual space exploration stock, or ETF. And if that's the case, I think space will be in it, like Virgin Galactic. And let's see. Alright, reusable rockets, orbital, drones, 3D printing. But this is ARK-Q. That's Bay. Oh, you guys aren't seeing this. I'm on the wrong thing here. I mean, here's Kathy Wood. She's Bay. And we got Reeser. Okay, so it's the same team. But what is the actual ticker here? Is this ARK? What is it? Space exploration. Mobility as a service. All right. So the genomic resolution. We know this one is ARK-G, which I love, by the way. All right. All right. Where's our ETFs? Next generation space exploration. We got a red check mark. Available in Japan. All right. So it's not available in Japan. Or it's not available in the US. Alright, so we've got... Alright, so that's ARK-K, ARK... What's next gen internet? ARK something, ARK-G, ARK-Q, ARK-F. And then we've got Israel. I don't know what 3D printing one is. Why doesn't it give you the ticker? Oh, print, okay. PRNT. Somebody was asking about 3D printing before. This is the one. PRNT. This is how you should invest in it. The growth here is strong. You've got a rock star team managing it. What's in it? 3D system. Okay, so Triple D, of course. Stratasys is still in there. HP. Exxon. I can't believe this company still exists, man. This was such garbage back then. Back like a couple years ago. It's still out there, huh? What have I done? Alright. So Triple D is a good one. I mean, I used to trade that one. I made money off of it back in the day. It's kind of gone down since then. Stratasys, I remember. I thought if I could get 100 shares of Stratasys, I'll be able to retire. That ended up being a lie. Alright, Altair, Exxon. Alright, so PRNT is an option here. And then I wonder why they chose Israel specifically as a place to start dumping your money. Like, why is that a specific ETF? I'm curious to see what they have to say about it. Alright, Israel seeks to provide correspond to the performance of the Israeli Innovation Index. Alright, what's in it? Perion, Stratasys, Fatale. I've only heard of a couple of these. Fiverr, I know what that is. I don't know what most of these are. But that's an interesting one. I mean, the ones that I really want to get into are where's my space one, first of all? Arc W is next generation. The space exploration one does not have a particular fund. So I don't know where people are thinking that they're going to start throwing money at all these space exploration stocks. But I like ARC-Q. This one's got a lot of Tesla in it. Alphabet. Taiwan Semiconductor. I mean, this is a winner right here. But my favorite ARC ETF is ARC-G, doing the genomic revolution. I mean, this is where you start seeing those really exciting technologies like CRISPR, targeted therapeutics, stem cell research. This is great stuff right here. So I've got, I put my entire IRA into this. I think I got 50 something there. I've got close to 100 ARC-Gs. I'd love to have more. I'm probably just gonna end up buying some without having it be part of the IRA. But I like CRISPR Therapeutics specifically, and I think these companies are going to do a lot of great stuff. You know, this is where I think the next huge boom is. The only thing that rich people cannot have right now is a longer lifespan. You've got a huge market willing to spend money, and nobody to service them because they don't have a means of expanding their life. You know, you have some health resources that you can use, but you don't actually have a way to extend your lifespan. What these companies are working on, literally replacing livers, you've got people willing to pay as much money as they need to in order to get you one of them. So I'm bullish on companies that are working on those projects, extending the human lifespan. And they're going to be able to deliver big time. Is anyone still watching? It looks like it's like dead. There's nobody tuning in. I guess that means that we're pretty much done here, right? Yeah, where are we at? Oh, there's a couple of people there. Oh, hey, it was frozen. That was what the problem was. You guys were probably asking me questions and it was dead. Or I couldn't see anything. The Psych ETF, governments, high-end tourism. Your computer is lifting off. Can you guys hear that fan the whole time? Is that what's going on? Is that a little better? Yeah, we're here chilling. Alright, it was frozen. It looked like there was nobody here. I was like, alright. No, what I need, guys, I need a desktop, which I'm going to have to build at some point. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a couple G's and throw it into a decent setup for the proper desktop. Every time I click off screen, it ends up making a mess. Yeah, the fan just kicked on again. Yeah, it's going to stay doing that. Why don't I move the microphone away from the fans a little bit? Maybe that'll help. I hope. Really adds to the vibe of the stream. I'm really pushing my PC to the limits here by just using it, honestly. It's a little bit older. It's time for me to upgrade. I planned on moving this year, so I was going to wait until I moved before I got a desktop. But now we're staying in DC for an extra year, so I'm not going to spend another entire year trying to use this laptop when I need a desktop. So I'm going to get a couple of parts. Probably got to wait 3 months to get parts. Alright, well, okay then. I'll have my brother help me out. What setup do I have right now? I've got a 2014 HP laptop thing. ZBook. I got a ZBook. Sell PC, roll into an FD, and buy a new PC. That's a good idea. Now you guys are thinking. No, I'll get my brother to help me out. He's built a desktop before, so I'm probably going to do that. I just want to make sure that whatever desktop I have is easily upgradable. I am so sick of having to get a new system every time I want to update some hardware. I want to be able to plug and play. Let me get some more RAM. Let me get another GPU. Just plug that thing right in. I got to get in on that. New MacBook Air. No, I can't do Macs. I need to have Windows for the type of work I'm doing. Let me get some AMD parts. I don't know. I don't know what kind of parts I need. I know nothing. I'm like a boomer when it comes to most things in life, honestly. Yeah, the plane has landed. Alright, let's see. What else we got going on? I want to see what space is doing after hours. Oh, that's the wrong thing right there. I want to see what we got going on space. So where is space? Oh, I can't spell. Alright, we're up to 2980 after hours. So big boom. God, you know, I sold a covered call at 28 thinking I was safe. I sold it like here. I was like, yeah, 28. It's not going to reach 28 this week. And now here we are looking at 29 and change. So, God, dang. You know, that's okay. I mean, the way I'm running it right now, I've got what I call a sonic spread. So I've got a long-term put because I think it's a risky investment, and then I'm wheeling on top of it. Like Sonic the Hedgehog, we've got a put to act as a hedge, and then wheels. So like Sonic, I call it a sonic spread. And then I'm taking all of the premium I'm getting from that wheel, and I'm throwing it right into shares. So I'm able to build up kind of like a free portfolio of shares while wheeling it. Problem is, when you wind up with these like swings of 10% in a day, it's really hard to wheel. And that hedge that I have, that put, is just losing value. So I'm very, very disappointed with that. I think what might be happening is there's another stock called Virgin Orbits or Virgin Rocket or something like that that's about to have a launch. And people are thinking Virgin Galactic is Virgin Orbit. And now they're buying it. And I wouldn't be too surprised with a meme stock like this. No. But I am bullish on space overall, and I do plan on picking up a couple of leaps on it once I have an opportunity to. So I think, you know, you've got Tesla, which is kind of on the ground. You've got space, which is looking to do something similar, really disrupt the travel industry with space, you know, with rockets. Reusable airplane rocket type things. So why is Wall Street Bets like extremely bullish right now? Can somebody explain that? Like, what are they saying? But I am bullish on space. I think this is really cool, and I think they've got a good CEO with a good vision. I think they need to flip their game a little bit, though. I don't think they're going to get enough out of just wanting to fly tourists into space for like 2 hours. It's not going to cut it. I need to see a little bit more than that out of them. I would like to see them just focus on travel, honestly. Like, if you could travel from LA to, like, Moscow in a couple of hours by going through space, I think that's a pretty bullish move right there. You know, you can even use the orbit of, like, the rotation of the Earth and fly in that direction because you're going to space. I don't know. I don't think we're getting anywhere near a new space station or hotels in space like they're talking about. I think we've got some time left. But if we ever get there, then, I mean, space is going to lead the direction, honestly. So, hey, you know, decent option there to get in, take a long-term position on space. What else are we looking at here? Wait a minute, I wonder what if I... No, it's not going to work. Alright, what else? What happened to GameStop today? So I wanted GameStop to go down. So I bought a share right about here. And then I would pretty much timed it correctly. You know, I bought a share so it would go down. It didn't go down as much as I wanted it to, but it did go down. So we can call that a success. I just had to throw away $3 to make that happen. Sometimes that's what I do. If I want the stock to go down, I'll just buy a share, and then it'll immediately start dropping. You know, because I'm a retail investor, that's just what it does. Deorbiting a space station? I hope not. Jeez. Concorde did low orbit 10 years ago. Yeah, I think they did. Tesla splitting shares, basically infinite money glitch. I don't know about Invis, so I'm afraid I can't advise you guys on that one. What about bonds? I don't know jack about Indonesian bonds, I'm sorry. I've got a couple of altcoins, but the only, hey, if you guys haven't done Coinbase Earn yet, do Coinbase Earn. You can get altcoins for like 2 minutes of your time just watching a couple of videos. So yes, do that, for sure. Those are the only altcoins I have, though. The rest is in Bitcoin and Ethereum. How do you value growth stocks? I own a bunch and I forget it's impossible sometimes. Valuation matrix always tell me to sell. Yeah, look at increasing revenue. I mean, there's no way to value it. I mean, that's always, like, come on. How do you value Virgin Galactic? Like, we don't know what it's going to do. But if you see increasing revenue, decreasing debt, those are really, really bullish signs. if you believe in the vision, buy the shares. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And we've seen Tesla can demonstrate that if things start picking up for the company, it can turn around really fast. Leap straddle is a good strategy. I wouldn't want to tangle up my money that much, honestly, but I mean, I guess you could if you didn't mind leaving thousands of dollars doing nothing for a year. If you were just going to do nothing with it anyway, yeah, you could take really deep out of the money in both directions and you'd probably do all right. I wouldn't do it because a lot can change in a year and you can see some stocks just take off, and I don't want to mess with those. You know, I don't want to have strangles or straddles on something that's just going to go flying. But hey, it's an option. Do I use TradingView? No, I haven't used that. I'm not too familiar. Am I bullish on Bitcoin still? I guess in the super long term I am. In the meantime, I still recommend selling those covered calls at the $100,000 strike. I mean, if it goes up to $100,000, you're selling for 100 G's. It's kind of a lot. If it doesn't go up to 100 G's, then you just made 25% by December. So that's a really, really good value for something that's that far out of the money. If Bitcoin triples from here, you're at the money. And you could just roll. If it really does happen, just roll to the $200,000 strike for the following year. Now, if you're selling Bitcoin for 200 G's, I think you're good. Wall Street Bet still thinks Kathy's making a space ETF in the U.S. I think that's ARKQ, is space ETF. So, yeah, I think we have that. It's going to be captured in ARKQ. I don't think we're getting a specific space exploration ETF. If we do, I'm going to buy it. I think that's actually a really cool thing to own. But for now, hey, the other ARK ETFs capture it all just fine. ARKG is something I'm really excited. You guys don't hear me? Alright, how about that one? Yeah, ARKQ is robotics, but one of their... Let's go back to ARKQ. Oops. Alright, let's go back to ARKQ. So, investment solution, autonomous tech and robotics. One of them in here, one of their focuses is space exploration. You see it right here. You know, they're capturing space exploration in ARKQ. Now, it's not specifically ARKQ. And I don't know how much what their holdings really are. Where did it go? It's not specifically space exploration, but I think that helps. So if they start pulling a full space exploration ETF, yeah, space is part of it. And if they do make one, I'm going to buy more space. I'm going to buy more of that space ETF because I trust Kathy Wood at this point. She's bae. Lisa Sue is out. It's all Kathy Wood now. Yeah, thank you, Wesley. Appreciate it. Yeah, buy ARKQ after hours, and hey, just buy the ARK ETFs. Like, you don't really need to worry too much about which one to buy. They're all going to kind of move together to some extent, just because people are really hyped about all of them. So I'm still buying them, even though they've gone up a little bit. Any non-tech tickers you like for shares, options? Prudential, Brian. PRU is probably my favorite non-tech ticker. PRU is great. O is great. Prudential especially, though, man, that is like the dream stock for anybody who's interested in income, but you also want some growth. I mean, they're down to party in one end, and they're down for serious time on the other. Prudential, PRU. I've got 100 shares of them, but they're running a drip, so I'm getting more. And Realty Income, I've got like 500 of those. Awesome dividend stock. They pay you a dividend every month, so that you can reinvest it quickly with the drips. And they also increase it every single quarter. Usually not by a whole lot, but you know, it picks up over time. So I'm a big fan of O, big fan of Prudential. What are my other non-tech ones? And YOLO is the weed ETF. I like weed as an investment right now. I think that's a really good one. And I think with Democrats taking control of both houses, I think we're going to see a lot of support for legalization. And when that happens, we're going to be in great shape as far as the weed industry goes. So big fan of that one too. Biotech is probably considered tech, Lucas. I don't know. But ARKG, I'm buying ARKG. All about those. Thoughts on Rolls-Royce? Dude, I can't afford Rolls-Royce. That's too expensive for me. I wish. Yeah, and Central, everybody's got the same ideas, man. It always feels like we're in a bubble because stocks just keep going up. But I've felt like we're in a bubble since the summer. And the bubble just keeps getting bigger. So nobody wants to leave this party before it's over. And somebody's going to get caught flat-footed when the market does turn around. But in the meantime, we can still we're rolling. And Varnell, do I like solar stocks like Sol? No, I don't know too much about the actual industry, like the companies within the industry, but I do like the, what is it, ICLN, I think? Clean Energy Group. Yeah, I like this one as an investment. So it's gone up so much lately. You know, it's been going up, it's triple what it was before the crash. But I think with Democrats in power on both sides, I think we get a lot of support for government subsidy toward clean energy. I think these will get really popular. So just buy the ETF ICLN, because I don't know enough about the individual companies behind all these. The monthly dividends was with PRU or O. That's with O. Monthly dividend is O. PRU is quarterly, although it does have a higher overall dividend. But O, see, Dark Hunter says the same thing. O is awesome. Love that one. Let's see, the key is to make money while you can, so that when the bubble pops, your principal is relatively protected. Yeah, kind of. I mean, if you can buy early enough into a bubble, even if the bubble pops, it'll still come out on top. It's really not the ideal circumstance. Really, when you go into a bubble, you want to buy and try to sell at some point. Whereas my mohawk, I lost it. It was too much to maintain, but I got a little bit of hair going on. We'll see. I've lost enough money with bubbles before. I remember the altcoin bubble, and I was dumping money into Litecoin, and the thing went... No, I'm still mad about it. BitConnect, dude, I lost money on... It wasn't BitConnect, it was USI Tech. It was like the little brother of BitConnect that was even worse. I thought, you know, they sucker you in by having all these fake accounts on Facebook where people are talking about all the success they've had. And you're like, wow, I think it's a scam, but maybe I can get in and out of the scam fast enough. Or maybe I can make some money and then ditch on the scam before it pops. So many of those accounts were fake. I didn't even realize it until it all started, you know, it all started collapsing. Then it became apparent that there was accounts that were talking to each other about, like, oh, you know, they say that you're supposed to be getting, you know, 1.0% interest per day, but I'm only getting 0.996. You know, I'm a little bit betrayed by this. So I'm like, oh, hey, dude, 0.996 a day, that's enormous. I don't care, I'll take that. So you get excited about it, but really it was a fake account saying that. Really, you're just getting screwed. New sub here, what stock is the one that you recommend the most for growth? LRCX. That's the one, man. Lamb Research is the one that you want. And thanks for subbing, Michael. LRCX is probably the one that I'm most excited about right now. Got federal proof with the former. BYFC, I'm not familiar with those. But that's cool. Former largest black-owned bank in the U.S. right now. Just got federally approved back for merger with the former. Okay. That's kind of cool that they're merging. I mean, I don't know too much about banks. I don't really trade bank stocks. But it sounds cool. Sarepta, yeah, I've heard about Sarepta. I don't know if it's a good investment because I haven't really checked it out. But people have been talking about it, so there must be some interest there to some extent. What is ARCX? I'm interested in ARCX. Let's see. So he's talking about that's coming to the U.S. I want to know what ARCX is. ARCX is... That's not what you're talking about. You're not talking about space... What is that? ARC resources. Did I misspell it? I'll let you guys straighten me out what you're referring to specifically there. I'm bullish on energy because the Dems holding house, just so new regulations on it. However, from previous years, the Dems held house. Energy still never moved toward crazy ass pathways. Alright, so David, I think that there have been some Democratic proposals that have actually made a difference for those companies. I think there's still a lot of subsidy right now that's being paid toward clean energy in vehicles, and there was some concern that maybe Tesla would lose those subsidies. I think those subsidies have helped the electric vehicle industry take off, and Tesla has been a beneficiary of that. I don't know too much about it. I know that they had the Green New Deal proposals and things like that. And let's face it, if we're going to have government subsidy toward green energy, it's not coming under the Democratic Party. It's coming under the Republican Party. It's coming under the Democrats. And now that we've got Democrats on both sides, I think we're going to start seeing a push toward that. So I'm for it. I'm bullish long term on clean energy anyway. And whether you believe in global warming or not, you still don't want air pollution, regardless of your political belief. Nobody's like, I want air pollution as much as we can get. No, you want no air pollution. So I'm still bullish on those long term. I just think we're going to get a little bit of a boost from a Democratic-controlled government overall. Raising price target to $5,000 a share. Hey, I'm with you, man. ARC-X is supposed to be the space exploration ticker. I would love to get ARC-X. I don't know if it's true that those are coming. I haven't heard anything about that, but I would love to get in on it. How is the Theta Gang strategy performing in such a loop-de-shoot environment as we've had lately? You know, the strongest performers have been the poor man's covered calls. I'm loving those, and now I'm starting to get into short strangles. I like those too. But by and large, Theta Gang strategies aren't going to work that well if you just have a rocket ship market. It's just not. You're going to be better off with leaps, which are kind of Theta Gang. I mean, that's a Theta Gang way of taking long-term bullish positions. But if you're trying to wheel in a super bullish market, you're going to probably underperform the market in general. So if you call leaps a Theta Gang strategy, it's kicking ass. If you call that something else, then no, Theta Gang is not going to be, this is not the market for Theta Gang strategies. What are some of the moves I'm doing right now? Been having trouble finding entries. Have you tried poor man's covered calls, Michael Devanzo? That's my favorite right now. You buy a leaps and then you sell covered calls against it. So you're kind of leveraging yourself in and let you take advantage of the bull market. But you're also selling covered calls deep out of the money. So you can get some additional premium to reinvest into shares. Even if you, here's the thing though, even if you underperform the market, that's okay. You're not, doesn't mean you're doing bad. When the market goes up 25% and you gain 20%, that's not a bad thing. That's okay. You know, it's not a situation you want to maintain for a long period of time. But you can underperform the market for a couple of years and still end up coming out in a very strong position. So don't assume that you must outperform the market every year. I mean, I did in 2020 because I was buying a lot as it was dipping. You know, and in the early summer, I was really just buying up a lot of stuff. But I'm doing PMCC right now on Palantir, which is working out great. I was doing it on Lamb Research. I just decided to hold the leaps now instead. What else I got the PMCCs going on? I'll remember. I got a couple of positions. I'm buying up a lot right now, so but I'll remember anyway. Is it the market for Theta Gang strategies? I mean, you can sell put credit spreads right now and make a ton of money. You know, there's really never a bad time for Theta Gang strategies. It just depends on which one you're talking about. And usually when people talk about Theta Gang, they're talking about wheeling, selling covered calls. That's usually what people are referring to. And this is not the time to be selling covered calls. This is the time to be selling put credit spreads and then taking the premium and putting it into call debit spreads. Now, that's Theta Gang. It's usually not what people are talking about when they're talking about Theta Gang strategies. So that's why I say it's not the environment for that. But yeah, there's never a bad time to run Theta Gang strategies. They're all good. But Theta Gang is more than just spreads. It's more than covered calls. So, I mean, I'm doing really well in the market right now because I've got a lot of leaps, I've got some covered calls, and I've got a couple of strangles open. And those are killing it. So put credit spreads, there you go. All right, so Jack, I mean, yeah, I guess put credit spread, yeah, that is a Theta Gang strategy. I've named it that. So yes, yeah, you're right. You're right. I shouldn't have said that this is a bad market for Theta Gang strategies. I should have said this is a bad market for the wheel. This is a bad market for cash secured puts. But let's keep doing with those spreads, and they're killing it. When am I going to do my PMCC video? So I've written most of the script already. I really want to do it soon. I need to put out the Dank Trades video because my channel has suffered from me not putting one out in the last couple of weeks. And my channel does a lot better when I do. So I'm starting to edit the video now. When I say edit, I mean make the video. I've recorded it, I've done the research. I'm putting out the Dank Trade one as soon as possible. The very next one is the PMCC. I've already got the script written out. I just got to record the sound and actually make the video, which could take a little while. I do have the Patreon post on it, so if you guys are on Patreon, you can find it with some more detail there. And I know you guys are dying for the PMCC. I'm excited about it too. I want to teach you guys that because I really like it. What do I think of energy transfer? Yeah, I've got 600 shares of energy. Or actually, I've got 100 shares of energy transfer and then 6 short puts, which are probably going to expire worthless. So I'm definitely going to reinvest into shares. Who is WSB Millennial? I don't want nobody stealing my views. Who does this dude think he is? A few 10 more minutes, then I gotta get going because I want to clean up the house a little bit before Becky wakes up. Who is WSB Millennial? Who's this dude? Oh, yeah, I seen this guy. Yeah, he's got good stuff. I mean, I think I'm a little bit, I don't want to say I'm a little bit better, but I definitely put a lot of effort into them. But I mean, I've seen his stuff before. It's cool. It's cool stuff. I think I tell the story a little bit better, but I put like 20 hours into each Dank Trades video, and I don't think he does quite as much. He probably could tell the same story I could if he put equal amount of time into the videos. But I also haven't watched in a while, so he might have gotten a lot better. But I'm still entertained by it. You know, I think he does a good job with it. What stocks would shoot up if Trump plays 4D chess and wins again? Bitcoin, gold. Honestly, I don't see that happening. But if he does end up like somehow becoming the winner, shit, dude, like buy boomer stocks. Those might be the only ones that survive. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. Crazy. All right, have a good night, Scritch. I appreciate you. All right, so Nicholas says, I say the market is bad for the wheel and the cash secured put. Why do I think that? I think that because right now, when you're selling covered calls and cash secured puts, you have limited upside. So when stocks go flying up 10%, 5% in a week, your covered call is going to get blown out. You're going to end up missing out on additional money that you could have made if you had just held the shares. So when you're in a strong bullish market, selling cash secured puts with out of the money puts is probably going to underperform just holding the shares. So that's why I think it's bad for it. You really want to have a nice steady increase, or you want to have a nice flat market when you're running wheels. You don't want to wheel a stock like Tesla that just keeps going up, because you're going to end up missing out. So that's why I say that. Or as Pandora Kid says, you just YOLO Tesla calls 3 to 6 months out. Yeah, probably, honestly. Like, my life would be better if I had just bought Tesla calls 2 months ago. Oh, and thank you, Will Tagle, for the support. I appreciate that. Thanks for stream. Good day to the Millions family. All right, thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. All right, I guess we'll get going here. Let's plan on doing a couple more minutes. We'll do one more good question. Hit me with something good. I'm excited. I'm happy to see people interested in participating. We got a little bit of life back out of the stream. Not too much, but something. All right, what is SRAC? Somebody tell me. We're going back over here. What happened? Uh-oh. Where did I lose my thing? All right, what is SRAC? Is this one of them SPACs? Stable Road. All right, so this is another SPAC. I mean, in general, I'm interested in SPACs. The one I hold right now is iPod. I don't really know what the difference is between most of them. But I hold iPod right now. I think I like the Social Capital Hideo Sophia Holdings ones. I think this is really cool. I like their CEO, which is named Chamath something or other. I think he's great. So whatever he's running, I'm going to be interested in getting in on. I'm trying to remember what his name is. Chamath something. It should say here on like the information about the company. Somewhere. Maybe not. It'll probably come right up. Yeah, that's the guy. Chamath Palihapitiya. That's my boy right there. So if I'm allowed to have Mal Bay, that's Mal Bay. Between him and Kathy Wood, man, we got a rock star team. So I'm bullish on these SPACs in particular, but across the board, I think I love the SPAC idea. I don't really know much about the particular ones you're asking about, although I do know that the IPO X companies have historically done pretty well. So I'm excited about those. That's how I'm playing SPACs. Alright, SRAC is a SPAC merging with Momentus. I don't know much about that one. Space vehicles? Momentus Space? Hey, buy it. Buy it, man. That literally has moon in its style. The description is there. SRAC has partnered with SpaceX. Hey, buy it. Dude, buy it. What is SRAC? SRAC stock? Why do I keep clicking off that? Oh, SRAC. I'm already on Yahoo Finance. Alright, so Stable Road Acquisition is partnering with SpaceX. Hey, say no more. Man, that's it. That's a done deal right there. If it's partnering with SpaceX, buy shares. Buy leaps. Frick, buy calls. Who cares? If you're partnering with SpaceX, you're going to make money. Why hasn't it, like, mooned? I don't know. It looks like it's up after hours. But hey, there's that one. I mean, the more SPACs you get, you have a good chance. Let me see. There's one. Yeah, here's the SPAC ETF. And there's also, so here's one of the ETFs, I think. One of these is like brand new. I think this is the one I disliked a little bit. And then SPAC and new issue. Yeah, this is the one. I like this ETF. I think this one's really good. At one point it didn't show you what the holdings are. Let's see if it updated here. It probably updated on its website. But if you don't know which SPAC to own, you can buy this ETF. And alright, so it looks like they've got these ones. Hito Sophia Class A, so IPO EF. Mine's not on here. I don't know why IPOD isn't here. But yeah, alright, so this SPAC ETF is a good option. If you just don't know which SPAC to buy, but you want to get in on the market, you can do that one. That's probably what I'm going to end up picking up at some point too. SoFi, yeah. YOLO ETF, 3K challenge. JP, I promise I'm going to start doing the 3K challenge again after I get out the PMCC video. I'm just using so many of those PMCCs on my... Do you guys want a spoiler? I'll show you that real quick and then I got to log off. Do you guys want to see a spoiler on where the 3K challenge is now? It's not too exciting, but it's pretty cool. It's not super exciting, but I'm happy with it. So if you guys want the spoiler, I'll give it to you. Space vehicles, momentous, yeah. Alright, yeah, so we got 1 vote for yes. Locked in a dirty amount of money on a WISE token. What the hell is WISE token? Alright, you guys want to see. Alright. Let me make sure I'm not doxing myself while I log in. But I will log in and give you guys a spoiler of the game challenge. Don't let me hype it up too much. It's not like a super exciting portfolio right now. But I'm happy with it. I hit the goal that I wanted to before I start getting a little bit crazy again. So I will... Alright, some people are saying spoilers. Alright, guys, so I'm going to... Alright, don't do it, do it. Yes, we need more, let's see it. Alright, there's definitely more people that want to see it than not. It's not really exciting, I promise, don't let me hype it up. But it was important to me that I hit a goal that I wanted to hit before I start trading a little bit more aggressively. So I was able to recover the full amount that I lost, which is good. You know, it's not great. I could have just bought a, like anything on... Why am I... No, I'm in green mode. That's fucking bullshit. Why is it giving me red? Dude, that pisses me the fuck off. Look, I'm up. Alright. Nothing nuts, alright? But I have recovered the amount of money. If you get rid of that Trump bucks deposit, you know, it should be a little bit more vertical than that. But I'm happy with where I'm at. You know, I recovered all the money that I needed. It threw off my starting point because I did that Trump bucks deposit. I didn't realize it was going to lift up my whole graph. Pretty frustrated about that. But I'm getting back toward those highs. So I recovered the full amount of money I lost, except for right here, which is when they deposited Microsoft into my portfolio from a referral, and kind of screwed it up. So my natural highs are like here. And then I was losing money during the crash, which ended right here, right there. That was the bottom. And I would have been totally fine if I just didn't buy puts at the bottom. On March 23rd, I was like, fuck it. All in on puts. And then that's the exact day that JPOW hit those printers. And I cranked my account. It was down to 1776. It's all adjusted here because of that, when I deposited like 250 Trump dollars or something. But I've since been able to recover it. So that was important to me that I was able to do that. Still not super impressive because there were, you know, so many other things I could have done to get more money. But yeah, why not just stick to proven stocks like Apple, Neo, Tesla? I could have done that, Pandora Kid, honestly. It's... You know, I didn't expect that Tesla was going to go 10 times up. If I did, I wouldn't even be worried about the 3K challenge. I would just buy $1 million worth of it in my regular portfolio and be a 10 millionaire now. But I didn't know that was going to happen. So instead I've got calls right now on Afria. I made like $200 on it, and then I rolled it. I bought shares of YOLO and then rolled it into a new higher strike. And then I'm up another 51%, which is good. And I just wish I started with a little bit more. But the portfolio is getting a little bit bigger. You know, can I even scroll this portfolio down? I don't even know if it's going to let me do that. I've got other shares in here too, but it's not made for a desktop app. So, yeah. I finally did unlock green mode after a while. Now that I've kind of recovered it using traditional theta gang strategies, I want to get a little bit more aggressive with this. I want more shares of the weed stocks. I want to buy some calls on the tech industry, and should be able to take my account up a little bit further. But here's the big play right now is the American Airlines wheels. So, I'm up, 205 on the leaps, and then I've been selling these covered calls, these PMCCs on American Airlines for a while too, and those have, I've got $261 gain right here. And then I've also bought some shares on top of it several times now, so that money just keeps going into different things. But I'm happy with it. I've finally unlocked green mode. I'm ready to get more aggressive and start actually making some money here, because I'm getting blown out by a whole bunch of other people that, I'm supposed to be more experienced than, and meanwhile I'm getting my teeth kicked in by people that are just buying GameStop. Whatever. But don't buy steel right now, somebody was asking. Not my jam. But hey, by all means, man, if you have some additional experience with the like the construction industry and stuff like that, then go for it. Oh, and whoever super chatted me prior, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I must have been away at that point, but thank you very much. It was just now somebody threw it at me? Oh, there it is. Hey, thanks for all the videos on the channel. Helped me become a Fay Gang trader. Made some big games on GameStop today and wanted to give back a little. Thank you very much, DX Kai1. Hey, congratulations on holding... it was literally just now as I looked at it. Hey, thanks so much for giving back. I really do appreciate that. That's going right toward my green screen, so I can get rid of this mess behind me, and my desktop too. So thank you very much, and congratulations on holding GameStop. I wish I had done that. GameStop alone, if I just held my position, that would have been like a $7,000 share position right now. Instead, I got this $3,600 garbage. I gotta pump those numbers up. It was good that I was able to bring it back, but I gotta do a little bit more with that now. So on the way forward, the 3K challenge is gonna be a lot more aggressive than what I've been doing. It's time to get that bag. And this slow, steady increase, that's cool when you have a $100,000 account. When you've got a $3,000 account, it's I don't know if that's really too impressive. But I achieved what I wanted to. I recovered all the loss. So I'm happy with it. And the PP touch, yeah, can't forget that one. Short squeeze is on. Alright, I'm going to get rolling now. Hey, thank you guys for all the support and all the kind words that we've done so far. You guys know where to reach me on Discord if you want to get in touch. I've also got the Facebook account up and running now, so check out the description of this video. Follow on Facebook, follow on whatever you want to. The only thing I usually don't respond to is messages on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter for networking, but hit me up on Discord, whatever you guys want to do. You know where to find me. So I'm getting rolling now. Thank you guys very, very much for being here. I appreciate that. And sticking it out while I tried to entertain a baby this whole time. Take care, everybody.